Chapter 216. System, scan the two scriptures of the universe, Mortal Restoration Pill, and Earth Restoration Pill. The Marquis Champion's storage space was originally a part of the resource vault. Putting it into the storage space was equivalent to putting it into Liyu's pocket. Liyu only needed to record the information. In fact, the two scriptures and the two pills were meaningless to him. After the system's scan was completed, Liyu no longer had the mood to care about the Marquis Champion. System, open the two scriptures of the universe for me to see. Liyu was also interested in the two supreme scriptures of the Most High Path. He walked the path of dominating the world, so he had to collect as many cultivation techniques of this world as possible. From there, he could conclude a dominating great Tao that could dominate the world and control the greater world. The Most High Path's two scriptures of the universe were very profound and had great reference value. Up, down, and four directions are known as the universe. Since ancient times, they have been known as the universe. Up, down, and four directions were the 6 directions of front, back, left, right, up, and down. They referred to space. Since ancient times, they referred to the flow of time from ancient times to the present. They referred to time. For a world to exist, what conditions must it have? First, there must be space. Without space, where would the world exist? With space, everything in the world would have a place to stay. Space was the foundation of the world's existence. Then, there was time. Time represented the changes of everything in the world. The changes of the sun rising in the east and setting in the west, the changes of life from life to death, the changes of the world, this was time. A world without the flow of time was a frozen and dead world. This is the foundation of the world's origin. The two scriptures of the universe are indeed extraordinary. Compared to the great Zen temple's scriptures of the past, present, and future, they are purely based on time. The Most High Path's cultivation techniques include the entire time and space. In terms of concept, it is a level deeper. Liyu was very satisfied with this harvest. It seemed that the Marquis Champion's ability to collect resources was also very strong. Not bad. Not bad. Now I have collected the creation, longevity, light, darkness, space-time, 5 elements, fragrance path, and ice path. With these cultivation techniques, I can basically build a framework for my dominating great Tao. Liyu chuckled out, as long as I gather even more skills in the future, my Tao of the Sovereign will definitely be able to rule over the heavens and earth and control the greater 1,000 worlds. The plan for the future was already very clear. The main mission of coming to this world was to collect resources and martial arts, and the other was to build a shopping center. Liyu could leave the resources and cultivation methods to the Marquis of Champion. He also had a few places to choose from in the shopping mall, such as the ancient dragon graveyard and the divine abyss of the 9 underworld. There were even more building materials in the merchant city. Autarch Qian's Ark of Fortune, Dream God Base's Kingdom of Eternity, Primordial Qi God's Primordial Rashomon Gate, and the Immortal Monument. There was no need to rush. They could play slowly. Even if they didn't get anything by the time came, they could just get someone to snatch it. What is the monkey doing? The somersault cloud that Liyu had inserted into the monkey's body could be considered another system. Compared to the Marquis of Champion's Taotai Jade Pendant, the monkey's somersault cloud was also equipped with a small resource bank, and it also had a flying ability. It just didn't have the gimmick of devouring all things. Connecting to the somersault cloud, Liyu saw the scene around the monkey. On Mount White Ape, Baizua's face was full of panic and anxiety as he scurried around, shouting incoherently, "What's going on? What's going on? Why are they all gone? Why are they all gone?" The entire Mount White Ape was in ruins. A thick layer of dust had already accumulated in the cave, and all kinds of broken tools were strewn all over the ground. Even the wine cellar at the back of the mountain where the monkey wine was brewed had dried up and was in ruins. Looking at the situation, the monkeys of Mount White Ape had long since left. Why did they leave? Why did they leave? This is the birthplace of us White Ape. Why would they leave? What the hell happened? Baiziua's face was full of regret. He was blaming himself for not coming back to take a look more often. He hadn't come back for a few years. Could it be that the entire White Ape tribe had gone extinct? Baiziua reincarnated in the kingdom of Yuantu. Mount White Ape was close to the East Sea. The two were separated by tens of thousands of miles, and Baiziua couldn't come back to visit often. He didn't expect that after a few years, there wouldn't be a single monkey left on Mount White Ape. Wait! Monkey Wu reached out and grabbed Baiziua. His nose twitched as if he had discovered something. Following the scent, Monkey walked to the side of a broken stone bench and brushed away the dust on it. He picked up an inch-long dark golden hair from the stone bench. There's the aura of my tribe on this. This is also monkey hair. As Monkey spoke, he handed the dark golden hair to Baiziua. So it's them. Baiziua took the dark golden hair and said through gritted teeth, Mount Cloud Mist, Demon God Cave. Old Fiend Ba, was it your Diamond Ape tribe that wiped out my White Ape tribe? Diamond Ape tribe? Mount Cloud Mist? Where is it? Let's go and take revenge. He had just been sent out by the Supremacy to do something, and before he could even begin, his designated subordinates had already been wiped out. With Monkey's fiery temper, how could he hold himself back? Show me the way. We'll fight our way there. We'll take revenge for your monkey descendants. Monkey pulled Baiziua and roared loudly. Revenge. Revenge. We must definitely take revenge. It's just that. Baiziua had a bitter expression. It's just that old Fiend Ba's cultivation is tyrannical, and he's cruel and ruthless. His strength is at least equivalent to a ghost immortal who has gone through 6 lightning tribulations. You haven't seen Brother Monkey's ability. I'm Supremacy's subordinate. Why should I be afraid of a mere ghost immortal who has gone through 6 lightning tribulations? Monkey sneered disdainfully and pulled Baiziua over. Just show me the way. I'll deal with them later. Okay. When Baiziua heard Monkey's words, he immediately recalled Monkey's origin and heaved a sigh of relief. The people in front of His Majesty Emperor, you naturally wouldn't be too bad. It's over there. Let's go and take revenge. With the monkey backing him, Baiziua's courage increased a little as he hurriedly pointed in a direction for the monkey. Over there? Okay. Monkey nodded and grabbed Baiziua. He shouted, Somersault cloud. A white cloud rushed out. Monkey landed on the white cloud and somersaulted out. Spiritual light flashed and the somersault cloud whistled through the sky. Not long after, a towering and huge mountain stood tall in front of them. This mountain was very huge. What was strange was that the entire mountain was covered in a layer of dense fog, making the mountain look hazy and unreal. This is Mount Yunwu? Monkey pressed the somersault cloud and landed in front of Mount Yunwu. A long staff with a purple-gold coiled dragon appeared in his hand. He slammed it heavily on the ground. Boom! A loud sound rang out and the earth shook. Bastard! You're courting death. The clouds in the sky shook violently. Streams of chi and blood shot up into the sky like rainbows. Cruel, ruthless, bloodthirsty, and domineering auras shook heaven and earth. Chapter 217. A vast amount of chi and blood gushed out, and a ferocious aura surged. 5 figures whizzed out from the clouds and landed in front of the monkey and Baiziua in an instant. They were 5 huge dark golden apes that were about 10 feet tall. These 5 huge dark golden apes wore heavy black armor and held a huge black iron club in their hands. Their faces were ferocious, and 2 3-inch-long fangs protruded from their mouths. The 5 huge dark golden apes were much bigger than Monkey Wu and Baiziua. Once they appeared, they were like 5 huge mountains standing in front of them, and their enormous pressure was overwhelming. Baiziua? And there's a wild monkey? How dare you come to Mount Yunwu to cause trouble? How dare you? The largest of the huge dark golden apes glared at the monkey and Bai Ziwe with its blood-red eyes and snorted. Bai Ziwe, back then, you knelt in front of our ancestor for 3 days and 3 nights, begging him to bestow upon you the corpse decapitation technique so that you could be rid of the mystery of your fetus. Today you actually came to Mount Yunwu to cause trouble. How dare you? Bai Ziwe naturally remembers the favor of imparting the technique. Ape Gongyu, where are the people of my White Ape Mountain now? Were they annihilated by your Diamond Ape tribe? Bai Ziwe straightened his neck and asked the largest dark golden ape. White Ape tribe. Our ancestors might shakes the world. All the apes in the world must submit to our ancestor. Your White Ape tribe is no exception. Ape Gongyu grinned and sneered at Bai Ziwe. Right now, your White Ape tribe is building an underground palace for our ancestor on Mount Yunwu. What? Underground palace? The earth termination chi here is so strong, how can they withstand it? You? Bai Ziwe's expression changed when he heard that the White Ape tribe had been captured to build an underground palace. He was about to explain when the monkey pulled him back. You talk too much. The monkey pulled Bai Ziwe behind him, licked his lips, and sneered. Since the white apes have been captured by them, let's just snatch them back. What's the point of talking nonsense with them? Snatch? You wild monkey, you really don't know the immensity of heaven and earth. The 5 dark golden apes immediately laughed. Brother monkey, these are the 5 disciples of old Demon Ba. Every single one of them. Bullshit. Let's fight first. Monkey had long since lost his patience. He flung Bai Ziwe away and brandished his 1,000-pound rod. With a leap, he charged toward the giant diamond ape. You're courting death. Yuan Gongyu roared and waved the black iron cudgel in his hand. A monstrous demonic aura surged, and a ferocious and ruthless aura with a thick smell of blood. God-killing staff, 8 desolation destruction. As he struck out with his cudgel, his vital energy and blood seethed. All the vital energy of the world within a radius of 100 zhang was drawn in, turning into a black pillar that reached into the heavens, smashing down toward the monkey. Is that all you've got? Monkey leaped into the air and sneered when he saw Ape Gongyo's god-killing staff. 9 revolutions of the mysterious art. A dazzling golden radiance blossomed from the monkey's body. Golden light circulated all over the monkey's body as if it was made of pure gold. A vast amount of chi and blood gushed out of his body, forming a golden flame that was more than 10 feet tall around him. Heaven's cudgel. The 1,000-pound rod in his hand bloomed with a dazzling brilliance. An aura that could shake heaven and earth and shatter the mortal world erupted violently. Dazzling golden light soared from the 1,000-pound rod, and a golden light pillar pierced through the heavens and the earth, shooting straight into the clouds. In this golden light, even the dense fog on Yunwu Mountain that had been lingering all year round was dispersed, revealing a clear blue sky. Boom! The 1,000-pound rod smashed down heavily, creating a burst of explosive sounds that shattered the air. At this moment, the supreme power of the sacred battle ape and the peerless demeanor of a sacred weapon were displayed. Bam! The golden light pillar from the 1,000-pound rod directly crushed the black chi and smashed toward Yuan Gongyu with infinite power. Bam! The black iron cudgel shattered, and the dazzling golden 1,000-pound rod smashed down on Yuan Gongyu's head. Brain matter burst out and blood splattered. The giant diamond ape's huge body fell to the ground with a loud bang, stirring up a cloud of smoke and dust. So strong? Bai Ziwe was dumbfounded. Having dealt with Yunwu Mountain many times, Bai Ziwe was very clear about Yuan Gongyu's ability. Old Demon Ba had inherited the heavenly demon god slaying strategy of the great ancient demon, Kong. Under old Demon Ba's guidance, Yuan Gongyu cultivated his body and divine soul with his ape body. His body was already at the peak of the martial sage realm, and his divine soul had undergone 3 lightning tribulations. With such strength, he would be a tyrant anywhere in the world. However, he couldn't even withstand one move from the monkey and was directly smashed to death by the cudgel. Damn it! Kill him! Seeing Yuan Gongyu die in one blow, the other 4 giant diamond apes were shocked and angry. They roared, waved the black iron cudgel in their hands, and charged toward the monkey together. As their figures moved, the 4 giant apes split into 4 directions and surrounded the monkey. Heavenly Demon Great Tao, collapse of the 4 extremities. The 4 giant apes seemed to have formed a formation. Their auras were connected to each other, and they became one. An incomparably monstrous aura surged up like a raging tide. 8 Desolation Destruction. The mighty aura surged, and the 4 giant iron cudgel were like 4 giant iron pillars. They were swung from the hands of the 4 giant diamond apes and smashed down at the monkey together. The 4 giant apes joined forces to form a formation, and their strength soared. This strength was not inferior to that of a human immortal. However, to the monkey, a human immortal? He was born a human immortal. Roar! The battle in front of him made the monkey's fighting spirit soar, and his whole body became excited. The sacred battle ape fought against the heavens and the earth. He was born with a thirst for battle. At this moment, seeing the 4 giant apes form a formation and their strength soar, the monkey was itching to fight. Boom, 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 the acupoints in the monkey's body continuously emitted a series of explosive sounds, like bursts of thunder. Brilliant golden light bloomed, and golden light circulated in the acupoints, revealing giant golden apes that roared at the sky. The sacred battle ape's body cultivated the 9 revolutions heaven art, and then opened his acupoints with the human immortal method. The monkey had integrated the bloodline of the sacred battle ape and the innate human immortal chi and blood of the divine stone spirit embryo into one. With the 9 revolutions heaven art and the human immortal acupoints, there was a huge difference in strength compared to ordinary human immortals. Sky raising 8 laws, heaven's staff. The monkey roared, and the 1,000-pound staff in his hand emitted a brilliant brilliance. With a sweep of the staff, the heavens collapsed and the earth cracked. The surrounding air exploded, and the incomparably powerful force even shattered the air. Boom! An earth-shattering explosion sounded. The 4 giant black iron staffs instantly exploded, and the 1,000-pound staff with a purple-gold coiled dragon roared and spiraled, like a windmill spinning at extreme speed, sweeping out. Bang! 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 4 consecutive explosions sounded, and the heads of the 4 giant golden apes were shattered, and their huge bodies fell to the ground with a loud boom. Too powerful! Too powerful! The famous 5 great golden apes of Yunwu Mountain were killed by the monkey in the blink of an eye. Bai Ziyue was shocked, and he was frightened by the monkey's invincible aura. With the monkey around, it did not seem difficult to save the white ape tribe. A trace of joy appeared on Bai Ziyue's face. Who is it? At this moment, an earth-shattering roar was heard. Who dares to be so presumptuous in front of the patriarch? With a loud boom, a shocking black chi soared into the sky. This pitch-black earth-fiend poison chi, which carried a sinister and decaying aura, traversed between heaven and earth, as if all the earth-fiend poison chi underground had been released at this moment. Bah! Old demon Bai Ziyue's face turned pale, and cold sweat appeared on his forehead. Chapter 218. Roar! An earth-shattering roar reverberated in the air, as if the entire earth was being shaken by the roar. Massive and pitch-black earth terminus poison gas burst forth like a volcanic eruption. Rumble! A ferocious giant ape that was dark gold in color, at least 30 meters tall, leaped out of the cave in the misty mountain with a loud rumble, shaking the ground and shaking it. Roar! The dark golden giant ape roared as a dark golden cudgel as thick as a pillar appeared in its hand. It glared at the monkey before swinging the cudgel and smashing it down on the monkey's head. Heaven demon slays gods, destruction of heaven and earth. The eyes of the dark golden giant ape were blood-red like two huge red lanterns. The cudgel smashed down with earth-shattering might. The earth terminus poison gas that was leaking out from the earth gathered crazily in the cudgel, turning into a cold and decaying pitch-black air current that circled around the cudgel. It was as though endless black flames were burning on the dark golden cudgel. The monkey frowned. He felt that there was something wrong with the dark golden giant ape, but he couldn't tell what was wrong. Forget it, let's fight first. The monkey had a bad temper and wasn't interested in using his brain. Whenever he encountered a problem, the first thing that came to his mind was to smash it with his cudgel. If a cudgel couldn't solve the problem, then 2 cudgel strikes? Heaven-raising cudgel! The monkey let out a roar and leaped up. Facing the incoming dark golden cudgel, he swung the 1,000-pound cudgel in his hand. The dark golden giant ape before him was clearly much stronger than the previous 5. The earth terminus poison gas that was like a volcanic eruption gathered on the dark golden cudgel. The cold and decaying aura exuded a power that could cause one's soul to wither and decay. A sense of disgust rose in the monkey's heart. A dazzling golden light burst forth as the 1,000-pound cudgel in his hand smashed down, exuding an earth-shattering might. Boom! The 1,000-pound cudgel and the dark golden giant cudgel collided violently, shaking heaven and earth. The surging wind scattered a large portion of the fog that shrouded the Yunwu mountain. Crack, crack, the dark golden rod exploded with a loud bang, turning into countless fragments that scattered in the air. The king ape's body trembled as a series of explosions rang out from its body. Black energy surged out from its body, emitting a sizzling sound. It seemed it was leaking air? The massive giant adamantine ape was like a leaking balloon, its body rapidly shrinking. As the black chi dissipated, the giant king ape transformed into a gourd-shaped fruit. What the hell is this? Monkey blinked, feeling a little baffled. Heavenly Fei Dao fruit, external incarnation. This is a heavenly demon Dao fruit clone that old Devil Ba refined using Earthfiend poison chi. At this moment, Bai Ziyue exclaimed and gave the answer. Dao fruit avatar? Monkey nodded. With a wave of his hand, an invisible wave swept across and stored the sky demon Dao fruit into the Somersault Cloud's resource vault. Be careful. Just as the monkey waved his hand to collect the heavenly demon Dao fruit, he suddenly heard Bai Ziyue's horrified cry. The monkey was startled and suddenly felt a massive aura erupt behind him that shook the heavens and earth. Die, Junior! A cold, angry roar rang out behind him. Heavenly Fei slays gods, sky-rending demon hand. There was a violent tremor between heaven and earth. All the fog on the cloud mist mountain gathered crazily at this moment, instantly turning into a huge demonic claw that covered the sky and the sun. When this sky-covering demonic claw appeared, the space around the entire Mount Yunwu was shaking. Crisp sounds like glass shattering rang out in the void. Sky-rending demon hand, tearing the void. A ghost immortal who had undergone 6 lightning tribulations already possessed the power to shatter the void. Old Devil Ba's soul cultivation had undergone 6 lightning tribulations, and his king ape body was no less powerful than a human immortal's. At this moment, old Devil Ba displayed the domineering strength of a peerless great demon. More importantly, old Devil Ba was just like his ancestor, Sky, in that they were both passionate about sneak attacks and sneak around. The big ancient demon, Kong, was best at sneaking around and sneaking up on people. Even the immortal emperor's elixirs had been stolen by Kong. Old Devil Ba had also inherited his ancestor's skills. Using the avatar of the heavenly demon Dao fruit to attract the monkey's attention, old Devil Ba's true body hid nearby. When the monkey relaxed and went to collect the heavenly demon Dao fruit, he launched a sneak attack. The demonic claw that blotted out the sky slammed down as if the heavens and earth were collapsing. This earth-shattering attack was silent and didn't even make a sound as it tore through the air. It wasn't that old Devil Ba was deliberately suppressing his aura. Instead, when the demonic claw tore through the air, the space in its path was collapsing. Even the sound was sucked into the collapsing space and couldn't be transmitted out. Heavenly demon slaying gods, sky-rending demon claw. Its monstrous might was terrifying to the extreme. Ah! This. Seeing the sky-rending demon claw's destructive power, Baizue's body trembled and his face drained of all color. Baizue was only 15 years old after reincarnating. He was just a ghost immortal who hadn't even undergone a lightning tribulation. How could he withstand such monstrous might? Good. Facing the demonic claw that blotted out the sky, the monkey wasn't surprised at all. Instead, his eyes lit up and he shouted excitedly, "I thought I wouldn't be able to enjoy myself to the fullest today. I didn't expect there to be such a surprise." The monkey's blood boiled as he raised the 1,000-pound rod high. "I haven't even used my full strength yet. I hope you won't be too weak, old monkey." The monkey thought to himself as he channeled all his chi and blood into the 1,000-pound rod in his hand. Boom! The 1,000-pound rod with the purple-gold coiled dragon let out a loud tremor. Brilliant divine light bloomed on the 1,000-pound rod. Roar! A resounding dragon's roar came from the 1,000-pound rod. Amidst the brilliant light, the purple-gold coiled dragon on the 1,000-pound rod seemed to come alive as it roared and soared into the sky. At this moment, a loud roar sounded between heaven and earth. The great Tao resonance. Thousands of rays of light fell from the 1,000-pound rod. Strange phenomena appeared between heaven and earth. Dragons soared and tigers leaped, Luan and Phoenix cried. The 1,000-pound rod with the purple-gold coiled dragon was a sacred weapon passed down from the Azure Thearcha's tomb. This was the first time it displayed its power in this world. The monkey's face was calm as he raised the 1,000-pound rod high and smashed it down. Crack! As the 1,000-pound rod slashed through the air, the void shattered, leaving behind a deep and pitch-black mark. It was as if a brush dipped in thick ink had drawn a pitch-black mark on a piece of white paper. Boom! The 1,000-pound rod with the purple-gold coiled dragon smashed heavily into the heaven-splitter demon's hand. Amidst the deafening sound, brilliant light bloomed and the purple-gold coiled dragon let out a resounding roar. It was as if a blazing sun had risen in mid-air. The heaven-splitter demon's hand that covered the sky instantly collapsed. It vanished into thin air amidst the sun-like brilliance. As the black gas dissipated, a ferocious ape that was about the size of an ordinary human appeared. It held its head tightly with its claws and screamed in agony. The heaven-splitter demon hand was Old Fiend Ba's spiritual dharma spell. It contained 90% of his spiritual will. After being destroyed by the monkey's rod, 90% of Old Fiend Ba's spiritual will was destroyed. No matter how strong Old Fiend Ba's spiritual will was, the excruciating pain of having his spiritual will destroyed was worse than death. Moreover, after 90% of his spiritual will was destroyed, Old Fiend Ba's spiritual will was on the verge of dispersing. Headaches were not a problem. The monkey specialized in treating headaches. Bam! The 1,000-pound rod smashed into Old Fiend Ba's brain, and his headache was gone in an instant. Chapter 219. He killed Old Demon Ba just like that? Not bad, monkey. When Liu saw this, he smiled and nodded. With Monkey's current strength and the legendary weapon, 1,000-pound staff, he could even fight against a 7th Tribulation Dream God Base. Although he couldn't kill the Dream God Base, he could still beat him to a pulp. In these 2 years, he would be able to dominate the world. But in 2 or 3 years, this world would experience an energy tide. The heaven-earth yuan qi would surge, and the strength of all cultivators would soar. Rebirth from a drop of blood. Human immortals would emerge one after another. creators with 7 lightning tribulations would spring up like bamboo shoots after a spring rain. The era of heroes was right before their eyes. If they couldn't stand out in this tide, they would definitely sink to the bottom of the sea. So, Monkey, your title of Wukong is only half complete. Only by killing Kong and taking his Tao fruit of longevity can you stand at the top of this world. Seeing Monkey and Bai Ziue begin to accept old Demon Ba's inheritance, Li Yu's smile became even brighter. Mount Yunwu. Monkey killed old Demon Ba and the 5 great guardian deities with an invincible stance. He was in the limelight for a moment. Seeing this, all the monkeys on Mount Yunwu trembled in fear. They lay on the ground, not daring to raise their heads. My name is Wukong. From today onwards I am your king. Monkey stepped on the somersault cloud and floated in the air. He held the 1,000-pound staff in his hand and shouted at Mount Yunwu. Greetings, king. All the monkeys on Mount Yunwu prostrated on the ground without hesitation. The monkeys had a tradition of fighting for the position of Monkey King. Monkey had killed old Demon Ba, and they were of the same race. This was equivalent to a battle for the position of Monkey King. The victor would naturally be the new Monkey King. From today onwards, Mount Yunwu will be renamed Mount Huagua. Old Demon Ba gathered all the mist on Mount Yunwu and used a world-shaking heaven-rending demonic palm, but it was destroyed by Monkey's staff. Now that the mist on Mount Yunwu had disappeared, it would no longer be worthy of the name. Monkey remembered that Li Yu had mentioned the name, Mount Huagua. Li Yu smiled happily when he mentioned the name of the place. Since the Lord liked this name, the monkey naturally had to cater to his liking. Thus, he changed Mount Yunwu to Mount Huagua without hesitation. Ha 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 ha! Did he really create a mountain of flowers and fruits? How interesting! When Li Yu saw the monkey's actions, he couldn't help but burst into laughter. The other monkeys naturally wouldn't object when the monkey announced the change of Mount Yunwu to Mount Huagua. Therefore, Flower Fruit Mountain appeared in this world just like that. After defeating the enemy, it was natural for them to search for the spoils of war. After landing outside the Fey God's cave, Monkey got Bai Ziue to release the white ape race while he entered the Fey God's cave. Demon God's Cave? This name didn't sound good either. Flower Fruit Mountain, Water Curtain Cave. Therefore, this place will be called the Water Curtain Cave in the future. There wasn't even a stream near the Fey God Cave, so how could there be a waterfall? However, whatever the king said, they could only be called. Of course, the other apes did not have any objections. After entering the cave, they found that there was actually an incomparably huge palace inside the cave. Old Fiend Ba had been in business for many years, so the palace in the cave was splendid and magnificent. Although it couldn't compare to the Great Qian Imperial Palace, it wasn't far off from the Western Cloud Empire's Imperial Palace. Along the way, there were also groups of armored ape warriors with spears and axes patrolling the palace. This ostentatious display was practically a country of its own. Greetings, king. Seeing Wu walk over surrounded by a group of apes, the armored warriors immediately understood that the new king had arrived. They hurriedly went forward to pay their respects. Rise. Monkey had never experienced such a scene before, but he had seen how Li Yu did it. Thus, he imitated Li Yu and waved his hand lightly. His bossy manner made him a natural-born leader. The apes were even more in awe of Monkey. Under the ape's guidance, Monkey circled around Old Fiend Ba's palace. Li Yu took the opportunity to activate the Somersault Cloud's Resource Vault's scanning function. As a result, Old Fiend Ba's hidden treasure vault was quickly discovered. Li Yu notified Monkey through the system, much to Monkey's surprise and delight. The High Lord truly possesses remarkable abilities and boundless magic power. You're so far away, yet you still know where Old Fiend Ba's hidden treasure vault is. You can even speak into my ear. Truly amazing. The monkey sighed and dismissed the other apes around him. Then, he went alone to the secret chamber where old Devilba had hidden his treasures. So this is the hidden chamber? Monkey looked at the wall in front of him and furrowed his brows. This was just an ordinary wall in the palace. There was nothing out of the ordinary about it. But since the High Lord said it's here, it must be here. Can't find the door? Can't open it? I'll just smash it open. With a whoosh, Monkey waved the 1,000-pound staff, intending to smash the door open. Wait! Liu hurriedly stopped Monkey, inwardly shaking his head. Monkey was good at everything, but he liked to act recklessly. Don't smash it. I'll open the door, Liu said to Monkey. Through the system connection, he activated the resource vault on the somersault cloud and absorbed the energy of the ceiling formation on the wall. Pfft! An invisible ripple swept across, and with a soft sound, a heavy stone door appeared on the wall. The High Lord is truly omnipotent, Monkey praised. He pushed open the door and walked into Old Fiend Ba's hidden treasure vault. That's, as soon as he entered, he saw 360 small triangular flags. These flags were only a foot long, and black streams of air swirled around them like dragons. Monkey could vaguely hear the deafening roar of an ape. A violent and domineering aura filled the air, as if it could shake the world and force all sides to submit to it. The monkey frowned and snorted heavily. It was extremely displeased with this aura that made everyone submit to it. With a wave of his hand, an invisible wave swept across and collected all 360 flags into the resource vault. After putting away the banner, Monkey saw a scroll that looked like a golden leaf. Heavenly Demon Slaughtering God Strategy? Was this the cultivation method left behind by the Kong that the High Lord had mentioned? The High Lord said that my name is only half complete. I need to defeat Kong before I can become Wukong. Monkey clenched his fists and waved his hand, collecting the Heavenly Demon Slaughtering God's strategy back into the resource vault. There were also some armors, pills, and some scattered books. Monkey wasn't in the mood to look through them. He put everything into the resource vault. Not bad. Liu looked at the new items in the resource vault and nodded with a smile. 360 Heavenly Demon Transformation Flags. This is a Dharma artifact used to set up formations. Although it's a mess, the material is not bad. It can be used after some modification. Heavenly Demon Slaughtering God Strategy, the legacy of the primordial violent ape Kong. Eternal Instant Tao? Not bad, not bad. Jin Dan Crossing Disaster? Directly dispel the weakness after the tribulation? Although I have no use for this, as the Emperor, how can I not have something to reward others? Very good. Monkey's harvest this time is not bad. Liu nodded with satisfaction. Harvesting resources was one thing. On the other hand, with Monkey's actions, he had formed a team. Chapter 220. Eternity is immeasurable and immeasurable. In the blink of an eye, it is right in front of me. Grasp that moment and it will be eternity. Liu flipped through the Heavenly Demon Slaughtering God strategy and became interested in the path of eternity of an instant. That monkey, Sky, hides in the abyss of the 9 underworlds and hibernates with the art of nirvana. God knows how many years have passed since ancient times. His path of eternity of an instant is profound. Liu nodded in admiration. Eternity of an instant was also the path of time. Although it was inferior to the great Zen temple's past, present, and future scriptures, it was also inferior to the most supreme paths, universe, scriptures. However, it was not much worse than an ordinary sacred grounds inheritance. Eternity was the entire torrent of time. The long river of time was vast and boundless. There was no beginning and no end. Therefore, eternity was immeasurable. Then, how could one grasp eternity? The vast and boundless long river of time was formed by countless moments. As long as one grasped every moment, one could naturally grasp eternity. There are still some flaws in the concept of this technique. First of all, it is clear that eternity is immeasurable. It is inherently weak. Even if one can grasp the moment, one cannot truly achieve eternity. Liu had been comprehending the most supreme paths, universe, scriptures these days. He had some understanding of the most supreme paths, eternal kingdom, and eternal light. At this moment, he saw the heavenly demon slaughtering God's strategies eternity of an instant. With Li Yu's path of dominating the will of cultivation, everything in the world was within his grasp. How could there be an eternity that could not be grasped? This was naturally not desirable. I control eternity, and I also grasp the moment. Li Yu's heart skipped a beat. He combined the concept of grasping the moment of the heavenly demon slaughtering God's strategy and the concept of grasping eternity of the most supreme path into one. Dong, a bell rang in his mind, and the sound of heaven was vast and mighty. The self-dharma form manifested in the mind, the will of dominating everything in the world, and above all the world. Endless brilliance bloomed from the self-dharma form, and a mighty chant sounded between heaven and earth. The ruler of all things in the world, the supreme of all worlds, you are the moment and eternity. Instant. Eternity, eternity, endless hymns echoed in his mind. At this moment, Liu could vaguely sense a trace of the true intent of the Tao of domination. His consciousness was filled with a bright radiance that illuminated the entire greater world. However, the aura of the Tao flashed and vanished, and he was unable to grasp it any longer. In the end, my accumulation is still not enough. Liu let out a long sigh and shook his head slightly. Then, he chuckled, however, this matter is not urgent. The champion Marquis will not disappoint me. At this moment, the Marquis of Champions stretched out his evil claws again. After staying in the Jade Capital for a period of time and fighting with Hong Xuanji, the champion Marquis's reputation had already spread far and wide, and no one dared to provoke him. On this day, Marquis Champion came to Mount Jade Dragon outside Jade Capital to visit Sect Master Fong. Square Immortal Tao was one of the three major Taoist sects in the world conferred by the Great Qian dynasty. The other two were the Taishang Path and the Righteous Path. Among the three great Taoist sects, Fang Xiandao's strength was simply unbearably weak. Even sect master Xiao Anren was only an ordinary ghost immortal who had yet to pass the lightning tribulation. With this bit of strength, if he dared to release his consciousness in front of the champion Marquis, he would only need to cough once, and the vast qi and blood would disperse his consciousness. After the beginning of spring, the weather gradually became warmer. Fang Xiandao's great Tao Temple, Jade Capital Temple, was currently filled with incense and visitors. The champion Marquis walked along the mountain path, and soon, he arrived in front of a huge and ancient palace hall. Around this palace hall, there was a faint smell of smoke and fire from smelting lead and mercury, as well as the smell of various medicinal herbs. This is Fang Xiandao's pill hall? The champion Marquis stepped forward and shouted towards the palace hall. Is Sect Master Xiao here? This Marquis is here. This shout sounded very ordinary, but the vast qi and blood was masculine, causing the entire palace hall to buzz. Champion Marquis? Xiao Anren was shocked. The champion Marquis is here? What's the matter? I heard that 2 days ago, he and Hong Xuanji were on par with each other at Scattered Flower Brothel. Fang Xiandao can't afford to offend such a person. After a few thoughts, Xiao Anren's face revealed a bright smile as he welcomed the champion Marquis. I didn't know that the Marquis was here. I didn't welcome you, please forgive me. Xiao Anren bowed and welcomed the champion Marquis into the palace hall. Marquis, please take a seat. Xiao Anren looked at the champion Marquis with a smile. The Marquis is very famous, even an outsider like me has heard of your name. Haha, old Taoist Xiao, what kind of outsider are you? In the entire Deqian imperial court, other than me, which noble family has not been visited by your Fang Xiandao? Speaking till here, the champion Marquis lightly knocked on the tea table beside him, and pretended to sigh. My status is still too low, I can't enter the eyes of the Feng Xiandao immortals. See, if you don't come, I can only come myself. Xiao Anren's expression froze, and he couldn't say anything for a long time. He cursed in his heart, you're already fighting with Hong Xuanji. Do we still dare to come to your door? You can still return to Qingzhou after offending Hong Xuanji, but we're under Hong Xuanji's nose every day. If we offend him, what good will come of it? Cough, cough. Xiao Anren coughed dryly. Marquis, please forgive me. I've been studying the spiritual pivot Great Tao scripture these 2 days and forgot about the time, so I couldn't visit the Marquis. Please forgive me. I don't need you to apologize. The champion Marquis chuckled, as if he didn't care. Thank you for your magnanimity, Marquis. Before Xiao Anren could finish his words, he suddenly saw the champion Marquis figure explode, charging in front of him at lightning speed, and waving his hand, he directly choked Xiao Anren's neck. Marquis, before Xiao Anren could figure out what was going on, he was directly restrained by the champion Marquis. Of course I don't need you to apologize. A cold smile appeared on the champion Marquis' lips. Your Feng Xiandao immortals are so close to all the noble families in Deqian. Where am I going to find such good spies? Hearing the champion Marquis words, Xiao Anren heaved a sigh of relief. At least the champion Marquis didn't go berserk and shout about killing and act as a spy. There was still a lot of room for manipulation. Xiao Anren sneered inwardly. How can I let you off after treating me like this today? At the crucial moment, I'll give you a piece of news that is 90% true and 1% false, and I'll be able to vent my anger by tricking you half to death. However, under Xiao Anren's horrified gaze, a spot of incomparably deep darkness appeared on the champion Marquis' fingertip. As the finger touched the glabella, this spot of darkness instantly rushed into Xiao Anren's soul. Roar, a ferocious and ruthless black demon god appeared in the soul, and instantly disappeared without a trace. Mysterious heaven's soul-locked curse, black demon god, Xiao Anren wailed in his heart, frightened out of his wits by the champion Marquis methods. Human immortal martial cultivation, and soul cultivation is actually that of a ghost immortal? And he cultivates the mysterious Heaven Dao technique. The champion Marquis hid it so deeply? Chapter 221. The champion Marquis tricked Feng Xiandao? Liu chuckled when he saw the system's display. He was very impressed with the champion Marquis method. Feng Xiandao was a sect that specialized in supplying masculine wind pills to noble families. They were very familiar with each other, so it was very suitable for them to gather information. Of course, Liu didn't care how much power the champion Marquis had developed. What he cared about was this time's harvest. The great way of the square immortal? The champion Marquis is really ruthless. You've stolen all their secret. Liu smiled and didn't care too much. This kind of alchemy and equipment refining method was just an external object. He wasn't very interested. He habitually let the system scan and record it, then curiously opened it to take a look. Liu was shocked by what he saw. Damn, the great way of the square immortal is so profound? Liu's heart shook when he saw the Feng Xiandao's scripture. All things originate from chaos, and chaos gives birth to all things. All things in the world are as numerous as the stars. All things have different properties, but their origins are the same. The great way of the square immortal studies the principles behind the transformation of all things. Equipment refining was the principles behind the transformation of matter. Alchemy was also the principles behind the transformation of matter. So, the Feng Xiandao's alchemy and equipment refining methods are just methods to study the principles behind the transformation of all things. Through alchemy and equipment refining, one can comprehend the great way of the origin of matter transformation. After understanding the truth, Liu thought of Feng Xiandao's current situation and couldn't help but sigh. Such a good path, but you guys went astray. You put all your effort into alchemy and equipment refining, and even forgot your original goal. In fact, Liu was just standing there and talking. The great way of the sun god and the Permitha true method, was this something an ordinary person could do? Since the primordial age, apart from the impostor Liu, no one else had become a sun god. Was it because they lacked cultivation methods? Almost all the sacred grounds and sect of the primordial age had a great way of the sun god. However, even the most talented person in the world like the dream god base had only passed 7 lightning tribulations. Was it so easy to become a sun god? The yang spirit was illusory and difficult to track down. It was understandable that Feng Xiandao put all his effort into refining pills and smithing tools as the foundation of the sect's prosperity. The theory of matter transformation? This thing seems to be connected to the 5 elements Great Tao? If Liu wanted to complete his own Great Tao with the sovereign will, he had to control everything in the universe. Matter was one of the foundations of heaven and earth. Liu naturally could not let go of this great Tao. The world is born from chaos. Yin and yang evolved and time flowed. The mysterious yellow surged, and all living things were born. Therefore the Tao of matter can be combined with Xianhuang energy and the great Tao of the 5 elements. Liu smiled and nodded. Feng Immortal Tao's material transformation Tao was a very beneficial supplement to his ruler's great Tao. Brother, look! At this moment, little Ting Ting skipped over. With a wave of her hand, her entire body blossomed with brilliant moonlight, bright and pure. Especially in little Ting Ting's lower abdomen, the brilliant moonlight rippled like water, as if there was a cold and bright moon hidden inside her body. You opened up the sea of misery? Liu smiled happily and patted little Ting Ting's head. He praised, "Little Ting Ting is so awesome." Little Ting Ting laughed happily. The extreme Yin physique and the extreme Yin true scripture were indeed complementary. To be able to open up the sea of misery in such a short time, little Ting Ting's aptitude was indeed outstanding. She was indeed worthy of being a great emperor. "Brother, let's go out and play?" Little Ting Ting pulled on Liu's sleeve and looked at Liu hopefully. "Play? All right." During this period of time, Liu had been busy with his own matters and did not pay much attention to little Ting Ting. He had indeed neglected her. Liu smiled and pulled little Ting Ting out of the pavilion. Time passed slowly. After being tyrannical in the Jade Capital for 2 months, the Marquis Champion finally left the Jade Capital and headed to the Qing province to guard it. When the Marquis Champion left, countless people in the Jade Capital celebrated. With the support of the Most High Path and Square Immortal Path, the Marquis Champion returned to the Qing province and began to settle down and manage his own forces. To fight for the world, money and food were definitely the foundation. Managing a merchant association was essential. The Marquis Champion revealed some of his intentions. The Western Cloud Empire's nobles were scared out of their wits and were very cooperative. Soon, a merchant association named Heavenly Secret Merchant Association was established. Time passed slowly and the Marquis Champion's Heavenly Secret Merchant Association also grew stronger. The Marquis Champion's soul came from Sky Beyond Heaven. The method of making glass had already been researched in Sky Beyond Heaven. After the Marquis Champion made glass, the Heavenly Secret Merchant Association made even more money. The Marquis Champion started to farm and even made a name for himself. How could the Qian Emperor, who was already afraid of him, let him do as he wished? The Black Wolf King of the Western Cloud Empire led a fleet to attack the sea border. The Witch Ghost Path of the desolate wasteland found clues about the Qiankuan bag. Using this as an excuse, the Qian Emperor issued an imperial edict and sent the Marquis Champion out. The Black Wolf King is fine. A ghost immortal who hasn't even passed the lightning tribulation can be easily killed. But what about the Qianquan bag? When the Marquis Champion received the imperial edict, he originally wanted to resist it. As long as he let Yuan Meng send some troops and casually fight a few times, he would be able to deal with it. However, when he saw the Qianquan pouch, the Marquis Champion couldn't sit still. It is said that the Qianquan pouch is one of the most precious treasures of the Great Zen Temple. When the Great Zen Temple was destroyed, the Qianquan pouch was swept away by the fleeing monk. I didn't expect to find traces of it in the desolate wilderness. The Marquis Champion smiled. A void treasure like the Qianquan pouch was also very tempting to him. After swallowing the gourd of fortune, he obtained the ability to travel through the void and store things in the void. The Qianquan pouch was more than 100 times stronger than the gourd of fortune. If he swallowed the Qianquan pouch, how much would his void abilities increase? Moreover, it was said that the Qianquan pouch stored countless amounts of money and food from the Great Zen Temple. There were even rumors that the 3 scriptures of the past, present, and future could be stored in the Qianquan pouch. If he could obtain these things, wouldn't he make a huge profit? Compared to opening a merchant association, the greedy Marquis Champion preferred this kind of overnight windfall. Thus, the Marquis Champion was ordered to go to war. Although it was said to be going to war, Autarch Qian didn't let the Marquis Champion mobilize his troops. Instead, he let him receive the imperial edict and command Sword to go to the South Sea to mobilize the navy. What a good scheme! The Marquis Champion sneered and waved his hand to keep the imperial edict and command Sword into his storage space. The Marquis Champion saw through Autarch Qian's plan with a single glance. Autarch Qian wanted him to mobilize the navy to fight against the Great Zen Temple's fleet. If they weren't his troops, he would have to reorganize them to be able to command them freely. This would take time. Moreover, he would have to fight against the Great Zen Temple's fleet and also track down the whereabouts of the Qianquan pouch. Going back and forth, it would take at least a year or 2 to complete this task. By the time the Marquis Champion returned to Qingzhou after a year or 2, Qingzhou would already belong to someone else. A pity, you guys are wrong. A cold smile appeared on the Marquis Champion's lips. This time, let's see who's the one tricking who. Chapter 222. My abilities have long exceeded your expectations. The Marquis Champion sneered. From Qingzhou to the Southern Sea, it almost traverses the entire Great Qian dynasty. Even if a horse galloped, it would take at least half a year to reach that place. But who said I wanted to ride a horse? An iron-blooded aura surged as a spiked armor covered his entire body. The Marquis Champion had a mocking look on his face. My heavenly light horn divine armor can fly. Moreover, I have the ability to travel through space. With a flash of clear light, the Marquis Champion's figure instantly disappeared. On the boundless sea, waves rolled and tumbled. Occasionally, a few seabirds would soar into the sky with fish in their beak. Behind the shore was a vast and boundless forest. The dense primeval forest gave off an ancient and boundless aura. With a flash of clear light, an extraordinary figure with a golden crown and a brocade robe appeared at the edge of the forest. This is the primeval forest? The Marquis Champion looked at the primeval forest in front of him and nodded with a smile. With the heavenly light horn divine armor and the ability to travel through space, it is really convenient. In the past, the Marquis Champion was worried that he would accidentally teleport into the air and fall to his death. Now that he had a divine armor that could fly in the air, the Marquis Champion could use space teleportation without worry. After a short while, the Marquis Champion went from Qingzhou to the primeval forest outside the southern sea of Great Qian Dynasty. The old fellow said that the Qianquan bag might appear in the territory of the Wu Gui Dao. The Marquis Champion looked in the direction of the Wu Gui Dao and frowned slightly. If this information is true, why did he tell me so clearly? If the information is false, what is the old fellow planning? The Qian Emperor was definitely aware of the Marquis Champion's personality. Would the Marquis Champion still want him to hand over the Qianquan bag? In the Marquis Champion's opinion, the Qian Emperor's actions were equivalent to giving the Qianquan bag to him. This was very abnormal. Unless the old fellow doesn't care about the Qianquan bag at all. He is using the Qianquan bag as bait to lure me out of Qingzhou. The Marquis Champion raised his eyebrows as a look of surprise flashed across his eyes. It is said that the Qianquan bag contains the past, present, and future sutra book. The old man isn't even tempted by this? Unable to figure it out, the Marquis of Champion did not probe any further. Regardless of what the Heaven Emperor was planning, the Champion Marquis's sudden arrival would definitely cause his plans to fail. His figure flashed, and a black light shot out. The Champion Marquis rode the black light and broke through the sky. This was the Marquis Champion using the power of the Ghost Immortal Realm's divine soul to fly through the air. This was the first time the Marquis of Champion had used the power of his soul in the outside world after cultivating the great Tao of the arcane heavens. He also wanted to see what was so amazing about the power of the soul. Using the power of the spirit to propel the body to fly is much slower than using the godly armor. Furthermore, it consumes the power of the spirit. It's really not that great. The Marquis of Champion tore through the air and shook his head slightly as he sensed the use of his spiritual energy. Of course, he was very clear that this was only because his soul was still weak. It would be completely different if he survived a few lightning tribulations. The Marquis of Champion was just about to retract his soul power and change into his armor to fly. Suddenly, a very interesting accident happened. Help! Help! A crimson flame rushed out from behind a cliff on the right. Within the flame, a blurry figure shouted for help and rushed in the direction of the Marquis of Champion. Eh? Are you treating me as a hero who has seen injustice and has drawn my sword to help? The Marquis of Champion curled his lips and ignored her. Given his personality, it was already very kind of him not to take advantage of her misfortune. You want me to draw my sword to help? Are you a beauty? Lowly slave, let's see where you can run to. Today, no one can save you. A middle-aged man with triangular eyes, a hooked nose, and a sinister face rushed out from behind the cliff and chased after her. The middle-aged man's hoarse and sharp voice was very ear-piercing, causing the Marquis of Champion to frown. Of course, what made him frown even more was that, no one can save you. You really are a toad yawning, what big words. The Marquis of Champion frowned unhappily. He had originally planned to leave, but when he heard this, he stopped in his tracks. A ghost immortal who hasn't even passed the lightning tribulation, I can kill you with a cough. The Marquis of Champion glanced at the sinister middle-aged man and curled his lips in disdain. Seeing the Marquis of Champion stop, the figure in the flame seemed to see hope and flew even faster. The middle-aged man was worried that the Marquis of Champion would intervene, so he quickly attacked. Freeze! A golden light flashed across the middle-aged man's body as he pointed at the fleeing figure in front of him and shouted. The golden light flashed and his words became law. The surrounding heaven and earth Yuan Qi suddenly froze. The figure in the flame suddenly stopped and froze in midair. He has such ability? The Marquis of Champion was interested in the middle-aged man's cultivation method. Crack! In a moment, the frozen heaven and earth Yuan Qi shattered and the figure in the flame rushed up again. The middle-aged man's move only closed the distance a little. Why is it only so effective? It should be because his cultivation is not up to par. The Marquis of Champion was a little surprised, but he was even more curious about the middle-aged man's cultivation method. Save me! At this moment, the figure in the flame had already rushed to the Marquis of Champion's side and was urgently calling for help. Kid, don't be a busybody. I am one of the 8 great demon immortals, the king of godly eagle. Before you meddle, you should consider your own worth. The middle-aged man's words were already seeking his own death. King of godly eagle? A ghost immortal who has not even passed the lightning tribulation, and you want me to consider my own worth? How could the Marquis of Champion listen to such words? An ant-like thing dared to be so arrogant in front of him? You are asking for death. The Marquis of Champion took a step forward and rushed to the front of the King of Godly Eagle. He reached out and grabbed. The mighty man immortal's chi and blood directly shook the King of Godly Eagle's soul. Even his mind and consciousness were blurred. He grabbed with one hand like an eagle grabbing a chick. However, the Marquis of Champion had become an eagle, while the King of Godly Eagle had become a chick. The King of Godly Eagle, one of the 8 great demon immortals in the world, was grabbed and held in the hand. It was even easier than swatting a fly. Now that there are outsiders around, it is not good to expose Tao Tai. Let's keep him in the storage space first. With a wave of his hand, the King of Godly Eagle disappeared and was kept in the storage space by the Marquis of Champion. Who are you? After taking care of the King of Godly Eagle, the Marquis of Champion looked at the figure in the fire that had not revealed his face. The figure in the fire seemed to be frightened by the Marquis of Champion. Even his voice was trembling. You still dare to hide your head and show your tail? Still not showing your true face? You used me to block the disaster just now. Do you think I am so easy to fool? The Marquis of Champion snorted. His chi and blood shook, and his entire body emitted a powerful aura. Oh, good, good. Under the Marquis of Champion's domineering aura, the figure in the fire could only follow his instructions and retract the fire around her body, revealing her true face. Hiss! There is such a beauty in this world? The fire dissipated, and a beautiful woman appeared in front of the Marquis of Champion. This woman's glabella shone with a flaming rune that was spreading its wings. Her entire body emitted a graceful and extraordinary aura. I am Huang Yanyan. Greetings to young master. The woman bowed to the Marquis of Champion. Huang Yanyan? Ha! Good, good, good. The Marquis of Champion reached out to hold the woman and laughed loudly. Chapter 223. Not bad, not bad. Liu was also smiling. Seeing the Condor King enter the storage space, Liu was very satisfied. System, scan the Condor King's soul memory. Enter the cultivation technique information into the resource bank. Also, connect to Tao Tai and scan the Phoenix's bloodline information. To Liu, this was a reward that he was satisfied with. The Condor King had inherited the great Tao of spiritual speech, and the spiritual speech spell. Although its power wasn't that much better than other spells, it was still very cool. To Liu, how could the great Tao of domination not have this ability? The great Tao of domination, calling the wind and summoning the rain. How impressive was that? As for the Phoenix, this was another reward that Liu had. In this world, the true dragons and true phoenixes had long disappeared. The dragon race had a dragon graveyard, and in the north of Yuanmeng, there was also a dragon descendant, Aoluan. But in the phoenix race, the only trace left was Huang Yanyan, who had the phoenix bloodline. After analyzing the phoenix bloodline, Liu would be able to create a great Tao of demonic cultivation where birds could undergo nirvana and become phoenixes. Of course, the great Tao of demonic cultivation was not important. But if Liu wanted to create his own great Tao of domination, how could he not experiment? Without experimenting a few times, how could he be at ease? This time, the Marquis Champion is here to snatch the Qiankuan bag? Yes, the Tathagata Sutra is in the Qiankuan bag. This thing is also very valuable. Liu smiled and sat down in the attic. He sipped his wine and waited for the Marquis Champion to deliver the treasure to him. In the wilderness, the Marquis Champion was stunned by the phoenix. There were many women in his harem, but the Marquis Champion lacked a female master to lead his harem. Huang Yanyan had a natural noble and graceful aura. She was the legendary mother of the world. How could he let such a woman go? Therefore, regardless of whether Huang Yanyan agreed or not, the Marquis Champion brought her to the Tianjua mountain where the witchcraft sect was. Huang Yanyan had the ancient true phoenix bloodline and had extraordinary potential. But her cultivation was still weak, not even comparable to the Condor King. Naturally, she could not resist the Marquis Champion. The two of them flew through the air and rushed towards the Heaven End Mountain. Not long after, a huge mountain shrouded in pitch-black mist appeared before the Marquis of Champion. This is the Tianju Mountain? What a foul atmosphere! The Marquis Champion frowned and landed in front of the Tianju Mountain. Raising his eyes, the Marquis of Champion glanced at the Heaven End Mountain and smiled. So it's an illusion. He stretched out a finger and gently pressed it forward. Boom! With a violent explosion, the illusory magic array that enveloped the front exploded with a loud bang. Like a soap bubble bursting, the scene in front of him changed drastically. In front of him was a vast plain. On the plains there were fields, roads, rivers, and cities. It was like a country of its own. Hee, those Wugui Dao people who play with corpses also know how to build a country? The Marquis of Champion raised his head and swept a glance, his face full of disdain. The baleful yin-chi here was so dense that even the sky was gloomy. If ordinary people stayed here for a long time, they would definitely become weak and sickly. The crops in the fields would also have a low yield. A sect like the Wugui Dao was not suitable for ordinary people to live in. Now that they had gathered so many ordinary people and even wanted to build a country, there must be something wrong with them. Who dares to behave atrociously in my Tianju mountain? In the huge city in front of him, a pitch-black demonic chi shot up into the sky, as though it was going to pierce through the heavens and earth. Huff, 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 huff. The sound of wings flapping could be heard. A group of ferocious demons flew up into the sky. Their wings covered the sky like a huge dark cloud. Ah, this is the flying yaksha? Beside the Marquis of Champion, Huang Yanyan exclaimed in shock. How could Huang Yanyan, who was born in the wilderness, not have heard of the infamous flying yaksha? This type of demon was invulnerable and could tear apart tigers and leopard. They were extremely strong and had wings that allowed them to fly in the sky. They were not to be trifled with. Usually, it would be troublesome to meet one flying yaksha. Now, there were so many of them? Just some mediocre refined corpses. The Marquis of Champion laughed and turned to Huang Yanyan. Cover your ears. I will show you what your Marquis is capable of. Roar! The Marquis of Champion took in a deep breath and roared into the sky. It was a thunderous roar that shook the heavens and earth. The Marquis of Champion's blood and chi exploded. It was as though a sun had risen in the sky. The roar of a mortal deity could strike fear into the ghosts and gods. The blood and chi that was as hot as the sun was the natural enemy of these refined corpses. With a deafening roar, the flying yaksha in the sky shuddered violently before falling to the ground like a downpour. In the blink of an eye, hundreds and thousands of flying yakshas were swept away by the Marquis of Champion's roar. Ah! Huang Yanyan was shocked. She turned to look at the Marquis of Champion and felt that this person was unimaginably strong. Who is this person? How can he be so strong? The Marquis of Champion's roar made everyone from Wugui Dao turn pale. There was no way they could defend against such a powerful aura. The sect master of Wugui Dao touched the gray cloth bag on his back. His eyes darted around and he was already planning to escape. Who are you to come to Tianju Mountain? A burly man with bronze-colored skin, short hair, and 9 scars on his head raised a copper staff and roared at the Marquis of Champion. This roar was filled with vast and mighty vital energy, and it revealed a strong, unyielding, and tenacious will. How could there be someone like you in such an evil place like the Witch Ghost Dao? Very good. The Marquis of Champion replied and held Huang Yanyan's hand. They walked towards the city. Huang Yanyan struggled a few times but couldn't break free. She could only accept her fate and let the Marquis of Champion lead her forward. "Stop right there." A figure jumped down from the top of the city wall with a boom and blocked in front of the Marquis Champion. "Your cultivation is strong and pure. You don't belong to Wuguei Dao. Why are you standing up for them?" The Marquis of Champion looked at this burly man and nodded his head in admiration. Currently, the Marquis of Champion didn't have many capable subordinates. Looking at this burly man, the Marquis of Champion had the thought of subduing this man and taking him in as his subordinate. "May I know who you are?" The burly man didn't answer. Instead, he asked the Marquis of Champion. "I am the Qing Province Governor of Great Qian Dynasty, Marquis of Champion Yang En." Since the Marquis of Champion wanted to recruit him, he didn't hesitate to introduce himself. "Great Qian Dynasty?" The burly man's reaction was beyond the Marquis of Champion's expectations. Hearing the Marquis of Champion's introduction, the burly man's eyes widened in anger. His face was ferocious and the blood in his body started to boil. "Great Qian Dynasty scum, I, Jingren, swear that I can't coexist with you." The burly man shouted and swung the copper rod in his hand, smashing it down at the Marquis of Champion's head. Chapter 224. Virtuous Draconic Force. Monk Jingren roared angrily. His body expanded and doubled in size out of thin air. His bronze skin shone with a golden radiance. His blood and chi surged to the heavens. Explosions sounded like the roars of giant dragons and the trumpeting of divine elephants. Skunda demon subduing pole. A copper rod soared into the sky like a raging dragon, causing a strong gust of wind to shake the heavens. The martial sage's close combat strength was earth-shattering. Under this aura, Huang Yanyan, who was standing beside the Marquis of Champion, turned pale. She instinctively wanted to dodge, but was held back by the Marquis of Champion. "So you are an expert from the great Zen temple. You are indeed extraordinary." The Marquis of Champion praised with a smile. He didn't loosen his grip on Huang Yanyan's hand. He raised a finger and pointed at the incoming copper rod. Boom! The tyrannical strength collided with each other and exploded with a deafening sound. The strong gust of wind caused the surrounding air to explode. The copper rod flew out of Monk Jingren's hand and smashed into the city wall behind him, creating a huge hole. "Good. You have great skills." After the weapon left his hand, Monk Jingren's body swayed. He took a step forward and regained his footing. Straightening his back, he stood in front of the Marquis of Champion and laughed loudly. 20 years. 20 years since the great Zen temple was destroyed. I, Monk Jingren, have also escaped for 20 years. In this life, I swear that I will never be able to coexist with De Qian. Your cultivation is unfathomable. It is not wrong for me to die in your hands. Ha 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 ha. Again. Monk Jingren laughed loudly as he took a step forward and charged towards the Marquis of Champion. His laughter was bleak and tragic, but also filled with heroism. It was like a hero who had reached the end of his road. His heroism was admirable and his fate was lamentable. Wait! Seeing that Monk Jingren was ready to die, the Marquis of Champion naturally couldn't continue the fight. What if he was crippled? What use would he be? De Qian has nothing to do with me. Even if you want to kill that old fart Yang Pan, I won't stop you. The Marquis of Champion smiled at Monk Jingren and said something that could scare someone to death. Who is Yang Pan? The current emperor of De Qian. Calling him by his name and calling him an old fart. He even asked people to kill him. The moment he said that, Monk Jingren immediately stopped. Monk Jingren was ready to die because he couldn't resist the Marquis of Champion. He didn't want to die. You! Aren't you the Marquis of De Qian? Why? Monk Jingren looked at the Champion Marquis in shock. He blinked his eyes in disbelief. I want to rebel. Do you want to follow me? Marquis of Champion, Marquis of Champion, Marquis of Deqian of Champion, Champion? Monk Jingren was of Champion. Was of Champion? Jingren and Huang Yanyan were not idiot. Since the Marquis Champion dared to say it, there was no other choice. If they didn't follow him, they would be slapped to death. Run, Champion! You are a disgrace to the great Zen temple by following the demons of Wu Gui sect. Speaking of this, the Marquis of Champion turned to Monk Jingren and said, Monk, follow me. All right. Monk Jingren nodded heavily. He had always wanted to rebel. However, he couldn't find a foundation and could only follow the demons of Wu Gui sect. Now that the Marquis of Champion was a better choice, Monk Jingren knew what to do. Trying to run? At this moment, the Marquis of Champion turned his head to look at the city. Streams of sinister demonic aura rushed out from the city and soared into the sky. Clearly, the demons of Wu Gui sect had fled after seeing that Monk Jingren couldn't even withstand a single blow from the Marquis of Champion. Do you think you can escape? The Marquis of Champion sneered. His body emitted boundless radiance. His acupuncture points shone with the scenes of creation. Taking a deep breath, the Marquis of Champion roared into the sky. Roar! A monstrous qi and blood gushed out like a volcano erupting. A vast and mighty yang qi followed this roar and swept through the entire sky like a raging tide. Bang! 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 A series of explosions sounded in the sky. Like a balloon bursting, the black energy that soared into the sky was instantly destroyed and dissipated into the mighty yang energy tide. How could these ghost immortals who hadn't even passed the lightning tribulation withstand the roar of the Marquis of Champion? Ah, ah! Miserable screams rang out. The figures that soared into the sky had their divine souls scattered by the Marquis of Champion's roar. With their divine souls scattered, the bodies in the sky lost their support and fell to the ground one by one. Bang! 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 The figures that fell from the sky smashed heavily on the ground. Falling from such a height would break even if they were made of iron. None of these cultivators of Wu Gui sect would survive this. Human? Human immortal? Monk Jingren looked at the Marquis of Champion in horror. The shock in his heart was like a raging tide. This person was only 17 or 18 years old. He was already a human immortal at such a young age? What kind of top-notch talent was this? Huang Yanyan was also frightened by the Marquis of Champion's aura. She had mixed feelings towards this domineering young man who refused to let go of her. Oh yes, the one with the gray pouch on his back was the sect master of Wu Gui sect, right? That pouch was the Qiankuan pouch of Great Zen Temple? The Marquis of Champion ignored the shock of the two and turned to ask Monk Jingren. Yes. Yes. Monk Jingren regained his senses and pointed to the place where the sect master of Wu Gui sect fell. He said to the Marquis of Champion, "That is the treasure of Great Zen Temple, the Qiankuan pouch." Very good. The Marquis of Champion smiled and nodded. He walked to the place where the sect master of Wu Gui sect fell and reached out to take the gray pouch from his back. This is... Grabbing the pouch, the Marquis of Champion suddenly had a strange feeling. It was as though he wasn't grabbing a pouch, but a layer of skin. Taking a closer look, the Marquis of Champion gasped. This is the skin of a human immortal? The treasure of Great Zen Temple, the Qiankuan pouch, is actually made from the skin of a human immortal? He was also a human immortal, but the human immortal's skin on the Qiankuan pouch was many times stronger than his own skin. There seems to be a higher level in the human immortal realm. The Marquis of Champion calmed himself down and kept the Qiankuan pouch in his storage space. It was a part of the resource warehouse. There was no setting that prevented other spatial items from being stored in the storage space. The moment the Qiankuan pouch was kept, Li Yu received the news. Not bad. Not bad. Li Yu nodded his head approvingly. There are many good things in the Qiankuan pouch. Marquis of Champion did well. Chapter 225. The Heaven-Earth Pouch contains the War God Demonic Sutra of the Witchcraft Ghost Sect. The Tathagata Sutra of the modern world is hidden in the middle. Li Yu smiled and instructed the system, scan the War God Demonic Sutra and the Tathagata Sutra of the modern world in the Heaven-Earth Pouch. These two items were what Li Yu was most concerned about. The other miscellaneous items such as gold, silver, and jewelry were nothing to Li Yu. Even the Heaven-Earth Pouch itself was the only thing that interested Li Yu was its ability to allow living beings to live inside. This function had been analyzed from the gourd of creation. Therefore, the Heaven-Earth Pouch was of no use to Li Yu. In the blink of an eye, the system had finished recording the War God Demonic Sutra and the Tathagata Sutra of the modern world. This was the first time he had come into contact with the so-called demonic arts of this world. Li Yu was also curious and hurriedly had the system open the War God Demonic Sutra. The War God Demonic Sutra transforms one's inner demons into outer demons and transforms one's mind into an unyielding will of the War God. This thing is not very useful to me. To Li Yu, the purpose of collecting martial arts manuals was to absorb the true meaning of the great Tao of all kinds of martial arts and create his own great Tao of domination. The War God Demonic Sutra only had an unyielding will of resistance. This had nothing to do with the great Tao of domination. I hope the Tathagata Sutra of the modern world can bring me a surprise. Li Yu shook his head and put away the War God Demonic Sutra. He looked at the Tathagata Sutra of the modern world. This was only a part of the Tathagata Sutra, but it was the most important part. It was the outline of the Tathagata Sutra of the modern world. First was the Tathagata Dharma form, which contained the foundation of the Tathagata Sutra of the modern world. In other words, it was the I, the unique and righteous of the modern world. Not bad. Not bad. The will of the unique and righteous is very suitable for the great Tao of domination. Seeing the Tathagata Dharma form, Li Yu smiled and nodded, very satisfied. To Li Yu, this was the true value of the modern world Tathagata Sutra. If Li Yu wanted to walk the path of the sovereign Tao, how could he not have the will of supremacy in the world? Using the Tathagata Sutra as a reference, Li Yu wanted to integrate the will of I, the unique and righteous, into his own great Tao of domination. As for the rest of the Tathagata Dharma Mudra, Tathagata Dharma I, Tathagata Dharma Body, and the like, Li Yu didn't care too much about them. Since I've already gotten the item, there's no need to worry about it. Li Yu was just about to cut off the system connection when he realized that the Marquis Champion wanted to play some trick. Is this a trap? Li Yu's eyes lit up and his interest was piqued. Tianju Mountain. The Marquis Champion's roar directly killed all the upper echelons of the Wugui Dao. The remaining minions naturally had no strength to resist, nor did they have the will to resist. With Monk Jingren's help, the Champion Marquis quickly took over Wugui Dao's territory. This was the overseas wilderness. Apart from wild beasts, there were only some swarthy aboriginals who were not much stronger than monkeys. There were no external enemies. As long as the remnant evil aura of the Wugui Dao was eliminated, this vast plain would be a good place to set up a foundation. The Champion Marquis was naturally unwilling to give up such a place. More importantly, the Champion Marquis felt that there was something wrong with this so-called expedition by imperial decree. Therefore, he wanted to beat the Qian Emperor at his own game and see what tricks the Qian Emperor would play. Master Jingren. The Champion Marquis called out to Monk Jingren and instructed, Master, this place will be our overseas base. I'll leave it to you to manage. Master, you can take in disciples and train an elite army to prepare for our great cause in the future. Yes. Monk Jingren's eyes lit up as he hurriedly accepted the order. Monk Jingren, who had been focused on revolting for 20 years, had never felt so motivated before. Even Monk Jingren himself felt that the Wuguei Dao's methods were completely impossible. Now that he was with the champion Marquis, the atmosphere was completely different. A piece of territory was given away just like that. How magnanimous! Actually, he had completely misunderstood. With the champion Marquis's character, how would he trust others so easily? Leaving Monk Jingren here was just to test and observe him. The Tianju mountain was far away from the central plains and did not involve the core. Even if Monk Jingren had any ulterior motives, it would not cause much damage. After making arrangements for Monk Jingren, the champion Marquis pulled Huang Yanyan to the palace in the city. Entering the room, Huang Yanyan's face turned pale as she thought, "This person is actually so lustful? Is he planning to use force? I can't beat him. I'm finished. Stay here and don't move," the champion Marquis ordered as he released Huang Yanyan's hand and took out his Qiankuan bag from his storage space. The Qiankuan bag is said to contain countless treasures and money from the great Zen temple. I'd like to see it. With a thought, the power of his soul rushed into the Qiankuan bag. Buzz! A tremor ran through his body. A huge light door appeared out of thin air, revealing a deep yet faintly glowing space. The vibration woke up Huang Yanyan, who had closed her eyes as if she had accepted her fate. "This is the Qiankuan bag? You opened the Qiankuan bag? It is said that there are the 3 scriptures of the great Zen temple inside." At this moment, Huang Yanyan could no longer care about anything else as she placed all her attention on the light door. "Do you want to go in and take a look?" The champion Marquis smiled as he extended his hand towards Huang Yanyan. Huang Yanyan hesitated for a moment before smiling. She gently extended her hand and placed it in the champion Marquis's hand. A thought came to her mind, this person is so strong. It's not a bad idea to follow him. In a flash, the two of them arrived at a vast and huge space. The entire space was emitting a faint glow. It was a square space and looked like a house. However, this house was simply too big. In the middle of the space, there were piles of gold, silver, jewels, weapons, and rations. It was like a small mountain. The great Zen temple has accumulated for thousands of years, and they actually have such a huge amount of money, rations, weapons, and armor. Ha 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 ha, this is great. The champion Marquis estimated that the total value of these resources was equivalent to 3 years of the great Qian dynasty's income. With this wealth, the champion Marquis's rebellion would be even more successful. What is that? At this moment, Huang Yanyan pointed at a strange bone plate placed on top of a huge box and asked the champion Marquis in shock. The champion Marquis extended his hand and grabbed the bone plate. He looked at it and said, This is the technique of the witchcraft ghost sect? This Marquis has no interest in these crooked practices. However, the champion Marquis chuckled. This old man definitely has a backup plan for the Qiankuan bag. I will use the witchcraft ghost sect as a cover so that I don't have to expose myself. Let's play with him a little more. Old man, let's have a good fight this time. Chapter 226. 3 days passed. Under the efforts of Monk Jingren, the entire Wuguei sect's territory regained its tranquility after 3 days. Other than the faint yin qi, there seemed to be no abnormalities. In these 3 days, the Marquis champion focused on the Wuguei sect's cultivation technique. The Marquis champion wants to cultivate the war god demonic scripture? The divine armor, the divine spear of death, and the war god demonic scripture, it seems. I can do an experiment. Liu chuckled and instructed the system, let Tao Tai do something. Connect the war god's demonic scripture, the divine spear of war, and the heavenly horn divine armor with the will of the war god and form a whole. In reality, the war god demonic scripture was a cultivation technique of the divine soul, while the spear and armor were martial treasures of the human immortal realm. There was no direct connection between the three. But if Li Yu said that they were connected, then they could only be connected. This experiment has great significance. After Li Yu did something, he had been paying attention to the Marquis champion's cultivation. This action was not because Li Yu wanted to mess around, but because he wanted to study the fusion of the divine soul and the martial Tao. On the path of the Yang God, the divine soul and the martial Tao had to merge into one. In the end, the body and the divine soul would merge into one, and there would be no distinction between them. There was definitely a huge risk in this, otherwise there would have been no one who had achieved the Yang God since the ancient times. Therefore, it was necessary to carry out the necessary experiment. Therefore, the Marquis champion unknowingly became Li Yu's guinea pig. War God demonic scripture? War God? When he circulated this cultivation technique, the Marquis champion suddenly realized that this cultivation technique faintly resonated with the divine spear of death and the divine armor in his hands. War God death, the war God demonic scripture. Could it be that this war god demonic scripture is the cultivation technique of the war god death? The martial Tao also cultivates the divine soul? Martial Tao and the divine soul as one? It is indeed unfathomable. With a guess in his heart, the Marquis champion became even more interested in the war god demonic scripture. He calmed down and continued to circulate the cultivation technique. His spirit shook violently. An imposing figure wearing heavy armor and holding a long spear, like a god of war, stood between heaven and earth with his head held high. A monstrous murderous aura surged. In a trance, the Marquis of Champion felt as if he had become that mighty god of war. In front of him was a mountain of corpses and a sea of blood. The sound of battle shook the heavens. The enemies that filled the mountains and plains surged forward like a tide. The war god's entire body was bathed in blood as he continuously brandished his spear to kill. The enemies were endless. If he killed one, there would be 10 more. If he killed 10, there would be 100, 1,000, 10,000. The god of war was in a hopeless situation. However, he did not give up, nor did he yield. Shang, you've already lost. An emperor in golden armor stood on a golden chariot. He held a golden longsword in his hand and pointed at the war god, saying, "Surrender! Shang, submit to me. My heart is unyielding. Therefore, we will not surrender." The god of warrior bellowed into the sky. The spear in his hand exploded with blood energy, and an unyielding determination shot through the clouds. Avicii killing Tao. The god of war roared and stabbed the spear in his hand in the direction of the emperor. Stubborn. The emperor snorted angrily and waved the longsword in his hand. A dazzling golden light filled the sky and instantly drowned the war god's figure. The Marquis of Champion exclaimed. His body shook and he was suddenly awakened. Huff. Letting out a long breath, the Marquis of Champion finally understood the source. With a thought, a stream of blood energy rushed into the war radiant's divine spear. Ka. An amber-colored horny sphere flew out from the divine spear and entered the Marquis of Champion's forehead. As if the bones in his forehead had been broken, a sharp pain was felt. In the Marquis of Champion's forehead, a blood-colored vertical eye suddenly grew out. So, this is the true body of the Skylight Horn divine armor. Only now did I truly refine this armor. The blood-colored vertical eye on his forehead disappeared. The Marquis of Champion took a deep breath. The will of the war god will never yield. My will, all things belong to me. Fusing with the will of the war god, conquer, plunder. With this thought, a loud sound came from the Marquis of Champion's soul. The image of the war god appeared in his mind. Conquer, plunder, boundless will spread out. At this moment, the Marquis of Champion's will of all things belong to me absorbed the will of the war god and became the will of conquering and plundering. All the acupoints in his body opened. With a loud boom, a blood-colored light bloomed from his forehead. The skylight horn divine armor instantly covered his body. The war radiance divine spear flew up and automatically entered the Marquis of Champions' hand. Boom! With a violent tremor, the will of conquering and plundering combined all the power in the Marquis of Champions' body into one. Although it was still in its embryonic form, there seemed to be a faint sign of merging the power of the body and the soul into one. Avicii killing Tao. The Marquis Champion thrust out his spear. In this move, he used the war god's deaths, Avicii killing Tao. However, he also infused the unyielding battle intent of the war god demonic scripture into his martial will. Kacha! Kacha! With a thrust of the spear, it actually struck out a series of cracks in the void. Under this attack, the power of the martial way and the power of the soul were stimulated at the same time, causing the power of this move to be unimaginably tyrannical. Ha 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 ha! The Marquis of Champion put away his spear and laughed loudly. I am indeed the son of destiny. The cultivation method of the witchcraft ghost sect actually increased my strength greatly. Good. Very good. Unknowingly, he had become a lab rat. The Marquis of Champion thought, I am really the son of destiny favored by destiny. It actually worked? Liu saw this scene and was very happy in his heart. System, according to the monitoring data submitted by Taotai, analyzed the theory of this experiment. The system quickly completed Liu's order and handed over the results. The martial will and the soul must be unified? This is inevitable. The martial will and the soul of the same person will definitely not contradict each other. Liu looked at the report submitted by the system and nodded slightly. The Marquis of Champions' overall strength increased by 20%? A 20% increase in strength for a human immortal is already very good. This experiment seems to be a success. It's just that, Liu saw the drawbacks of this experiment and was a little discouraged. There are still many drawbacks. This fusion is based on the divine spear and divine armor, and the will to conquer and plunder. Every time it explodes, the divine spear and divine armor will have to withstand a huge impact. If it is used too many times, the divine spear and divine armor will be crippled, and this fusion ability will also be lost. Liu shook his head. It's so troublesome to fuse a beginner human immortal and an ordinary ghost immortal. When one becomes a sun god, the ever-changing human immortal body and the 9 thunder tribulation ghost immortal body will fuse into one. It will definitely be even more dangerous. However, as long as there is a possibility of success, with the system's virtual illusion simulation countless times, I will always be able to find a safe way. Of course, Liu would not be like others, placing the possibility of a breakthrough on luck. He would only break through if the deduction was foolproof. The son of a rich family would not sit under the awning. With Big Boss Li's wealth, how could he take such a risk? Chapter 227. This Marquis' skill has improved greatly. Congratulations! The Marquis Champion did not know that he was a lab rat and did not know that he was scammed again. Instead, he was very happy. Now, it's time to deal with the Qiankuan bag. The Marquis Champion chuckled and took out the Qiankuan bag with a wave of his hand. The last time I swallowed the creation gourd, it allowed me to grasp the power of the void. This time, swallowing the Qiankuan bag will definitely increase my power of the void substantially. External objects are ultimately external objects. One's own strength is the foundation. The items in the Qiankuan bag had long been transferred to the storage space. The Marquis Champion nodded and activated the Taotai Jade Pendant. The pitch-black Taotai beast manifested and swallowed the Qiankuan bag in one gulp. In reality, this was delivering the Qiankuan bag to Liu's hands. This thing, I have no use for it either. Liu looked at the Qianquan bag that appeared in the resource warehouse and shook his head somewhat helplessly. The storage function of the Qianquan bag and the void teleportation function, Liu was stronger than it. Now, the Tathagata Sutra's general outline was also scanned and stored by Liu. Therefore, the Qianquan bag itself was meaningless to Liu. Directly swallowing the Qianquan bag, the Marquis champion is still very decisive. Unfortunately, young man, the so-called power of the void, the so-called strength, is completely an illusion. Liu smiled and shook his head. System, open half of the storage function of the resource warehouse mounted on the Taotai Jade pendant for the Marquis champion to use. In addition, increase the distance of the void teleportation a little. Just deal with him like this. On the Marquis champion's side, after the Taotai swallowed the Qianquan bag in one gulp, a brief moment later, a clear stream flowed in the Marquis champion's divine soul. A formless and intangible void aura spread out. In an instant, the Marquis champion discovered that his storage space suddenly skyrocketed. It was more than 10 times bigger than before. This storage space was almost as big as the Green Killgate's past city. More importantly, he discovered that his void shuttling ability had also been strengthened. The teleportation distance had increased substantially. With his current ability, he could directly teleport from Heaven End Mountain to Qingzhou City. Ha 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 ha. Good, good, good. Heaven-devouring great Tao indeed did not disappoint me. It's simply too convenient for me to go in and out. The Marquis champion laughed happily. Stepping out of the room, the champion Marquis glanced around and discovered that this territory had been completely straightened out by Monk Jingren. The Marquis of Champion nodded with satisfaction. Since it has been restored to its original state, the illusion array should also be restored. Since the Qianquan bag had appeared here, no matter what the Qianquan emperor was planning, this place would definitely become the center of the battle. Thus, he disguised himself as Wu Gui Dao and waited for someone to come to snatch the Qianquan pouch. Reactivating the illusion array was simple. When they first arrived, the Marquis of Champion had broken the illusory formation with a single point of his finger. He had merely used his human immortal qi to shatter the illusory formation and dissipate the formation's energy. At this moment, after cultivating the demonic scripture of the war god, the Marquis of Champion didn't need to expend much energy to activate this illusion formation that originated from the scripture. He poured his spiritual energy into the formation. After the formation nodes were activated, the Heaven End Mountain returned to its pitch-black and gloomy appearance. From an outsider's point of view, this place was a desolate land. There was only a sinister mountain covered in black gas, and there was no sign of human habitation within 1,000 miles. Very good. The Marquis of Champion nodded his head in satisfaction and walked out. He planned to call Huang Yanyan and return to the Green region. So, I forgot about someone. Thinking of Huang Yanyan, the Marquis of Champion recalled that he had kept the godly Eagle King in his storage space. The Marquis of Champion didn't take the godly Eagle King, a ghost immortal who hadn't undergone the lightning tribulations, to heart. But after a few days, he had completely forgotten about the godly Eagle King. It's useless to leave him in the storage space. Let's deal with him. The Marquis of Champion waved his hand and released a ray of clear light, releasing the godly Eagle King from his storage space. Spare me! Spare me! I surrender! Sir, spare me! After throwing the godly Eagle King out, the godly Eagle King, who had just landed on the ground, immediately knelt on the ground and kowtowed to the Marquis of Champion, begging loudly for mercy. You're not dead yet? The Marquis of Champion was stunned. He was extremely shocked that the godly Eagle King was still alive. As he didn't care about the godly Eagle King, the Marquis of Champion couldn't remember. He had forgotten if he had casually killed the godly Eagle King when he had thrown him into his storage space. I'm still alive. Alive. Sir, spare me. Sir, spare me. Hearing the Marquis of Champion's words, the godly Eagle King trembled and kowtowed even harder. "Since you're still alive," the Marquis of Champion glanced at the godly Eagle King and nodded slightly. "That's fine too. From today onwards, you will be my subordinate and work for me." A ghost immortal who hadn't undergone the lightning tribulations wasn't much in the eyes of the Marquis of Champion. But in the outside world, he was one of the 8 great demon immortals and was considered a well-known figure. Although the godly Eagle King was a far cry from the Sky Snake King and the Peacock King, he was comparable to Bai Ziue, Concubine Yuan, and even the Gold Pearl King and the Silver Shark King. "Just make do with it." "Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir." The godly Eagle King heaved a long sigh of relief. His life was finally saved. "Very good." The Marquis of Champion nodded. "But I don't trust you. I need to place a restriction on you. Relax your mind and don't resist." As he spoke, the Marquis of Champion extended a finger. A deep darkness appeared on his fingertip, and he pointed it towards the godly Eagle King's forehead. "Yes, yes." The godly Eagle King had no intention of resisting and obediently allowed the Marquis of Champion to plant the Black Heaven Soul Assimilation curse in his mind. It was not that the godly Eagle King did not want to resist, but he did not dare to. Thinking of his previous experience, the godly Eagle King shivered and felt a chill in his bones. This lord's methods were truly too terrifying. He was locked in a dark place, unable to move at all. There was not the slightest sound around him, nor was there any movement. He could not even feel his own breathing and heartbeat. There was only endless darkness and a deep, deathly stillness. The torture that was countless times more terrifying than being locked in a small black room almost drove the godly Eagle King crazy. Finally, he was released. The godly Eagle King would rather die than experience that feeling again. All right. Staying in the system's resource vault was such a feeling. The Marquis of Champion did not know. Even Li Yu did not expect that being taken in by the resource vault would be such a terrifying torture. Although the Marquis of Champion was surprised that the godly Eagle King was still alive, he did not pay much attention to it. After all, the creation gourd and Qiankuan bag could contain living beings. However, Li Yu was shocked. "System, the resource vault can actually store living beings?" Li Yu hurriedly asked the system. As far as he knew, spatial equipment couldn't store living things. From the characteristics of the creation gourd that could store living beings, he did not add it into the Tao Tai's resource vault. The resource vault has a living preservation function. Any living resource will be maintained in the state it was in when it was stored in the resource vault. Living preservation? The corners of Li Yu's mouth twitched a few times. He had infinite sympathy for the godly Eagle King. "I really did not mean to torture you. Furthermore, you are still not dead. Your life is really tough. Not bad. I think highly of you." Chapter 228. "Brother, let's go to the city to play, okay?" Li Yu was lamenting the tragic fate of the Condor King when Little Tingting suddenly ran over and begged Li Yu. "Go to the city?" Hearing Little Tingting's words, Li Yu recalled that he had been in this world for a few months, but he had not even been to the Jade Capital, which was 60 miles away. Indeed, cultivation knows no time. Li Yu sighed inwardly and smiled bitterly in his heart. After coming to this world, Li Yu was quite frightened by the youth who had become an immortal in 6 years. He felt a sense of urgency. During this period of time, he had been searching for cultivation techniques and researching the great Tao of domination. He had been continuously fighting with the young Tharch in the illusory world and condensing his martial intent. Such diligence was truly rare. Thinking of this, Li Yu was shocked. "My heart is like floating clouds, and my mind is like flowing water. So, I've actually fallen into obsession." Ez had become an immortal in 6 years. Li Yu felt a sense of urgency and even wanted to compete with him. Therefore, he had devoted all his attention to cultivation. In the end, he had completely lost his calm and detached attitude. Huh? What am I competing with him for? No matter how powerful he is only a native of this world. So what if he has transcended this world? I have traversed through thousands of worlds and am an existence that has transcended this world. With this thought, he was suddenly enlightened. After letting go of his obsession, Liu only felt that his divine soul was clear and his heart was like glass, quiet and untainted. Brother, let's go and play for a while, okay? Little Tingting tugged at Liu's sleeve and looked at Liu with anticipation. Okay. Liu smiled and nodded. He bent down and carried Little Tingting, letting her sit on his shoulders. Oh, let's go and play. Let's go and play. Little Tingting clapped her hands and was so happy that she laughed and shouted. Can we go with you? At this time, the three little foxes suddenly came out and jumped in front of Liu. They swung their big furry tails, and there was a look of anticipation in their eyes. All right. Let's go together. However, you can't talk in front of others. It won't be good if you scare people. Liu nodded with a smile and then said something to the little foxes. Although Liu wasn't afraid of getting into trouble, it would be better if he didn't have to. Great. This is great. We can go out and play too. The three little foxes jumped up happily. Then let's go. With a wave of his hand, a gust of wind swept up the three little foxes. Liu's figure flickered and he took a step forward, instantly appearing outside the West Mountain. This was an official road outside West Mountain, and it was only 10 miles away from the Jade capital. Although it was outside the city, it was still very prosperous. On both sides of the official road, there were various shops adjacent to each other. People came and went on the road, and carriages were woven together. After dispelling the illusion that concealed their figures, Liu and the others appeared in a remote corner and then walked leisurely into the main street. Wow! What beautiful flowers! Wow! Who is that yellow-haired, blue-eyed guy? There are people who look like him? Wow! That building is so tall. Along the way, Little Tingting made a big fuss and attracted the attention of the people around them. However, when they saw that the two of them were dressed luxuriously, had outstanding appearances, and had extraordinary auras, they didn't dare to look at them. When they saw the three spirit foxes that looked like pets, one green and two white, no one dared to ridicule them. It wasn't that they hadn't seen the world, but they were of noble birth and hadn't seen the scene of the marketplace. That's the who of the West regions. They came to the great Qian dynasty to do business. That's a clock tower. Yes, it's used to tell the time. It has the same function as the small clock beside your bed. Liu didn't care about the gazes of others and introduced it to Little Tingting with a smile. Young master, look, there are 3 beautiful foxes over there. At this time, a girl's surprised voice suddenly sounded in front of them. Foxes? A young man in a green robe heard the girl's words and turned around in surprise. It's you guys. Brotherly, long time no see. I didn't expect to see you here. This young man was Hong Yi, who had taught the little foxes a lesson. Haha, so it's Mr. Hong. Liu smiled and put Little Tingting down from his shoulder. Why aren't you greeting Mr. Hong? Greetings, Mr. Hong. Little Tingting walked forward and bowed to Hong Yi. To the shock of the passers-by, the 3 little foxes also bowed to Hong Yi like Little Tingting. No need for formalities. No need for formalities. Hong Yi quickly helped Little Tingting up. Brother Hong, this is... Liu glanced at Hong Yi and found that there was an old man and a strong young man beside him. The 2 of them were carrying a load, and seemed to have bought a lot of sundries. My young master passed the provincial examination. He has established his own family business. The girl beside Hong Yi said to Liu with an arrogant face. She seemed to be very proud of her young master passing the provincial examination. Little Moo, don't talk nonsense. Hong Yi stopped the girl from showing off and smiled at Liu apologetically. Little Moo is rude. Sorry for making a fool of myself. Haha, it's okay. It's okay. Liu glanced at Hong Yi and suddenly had a playful thought. He smiled at Hong Yi and said, Brother Hong, have you finished reading the book you borrowed from the deep valley of West Mountain? Hong Yi's body shook, and a tinge of astonishment flashed across his eyes. He immediately calmed down and said, Brother Li, you must be joking. Hong Yi did take a book from the secluded valley, but it was given to me by Tu Lao. That book of martial arts was indeed given to Hong Yi by Tu Lao. Back then, Hong Yi learned fist skills from Bai Ziyue and was interested in the book of martial arts. Before he left, Tu Lao gave him the book. When he returned home, he suddenly remembered that Hong Xuanji didn't allow him to cultivate. He was worried that Hong Xuanji would find out that he was practicing martial arts. Therefore, he threw the book of martial arts into the fire and burned it. He didn't expect the book of past Amitabha Sutra to be burned. Ha! Liu smiled and shook his head. Of course, you don't have to return Tu Lao's book. However, the book of past is mine. Return it to me after you've finished reading it. Liu intentionally emphasized the word past. What? It's... Hong Yi looked at Liu in shock. It's Brother Li who placed it inside? This. He thought it was a heaven-sent opportunity. He didn't expect it to be given to him by someone else? Who is this Brother Li? Why did he give me that kind of sutra book? I've finished reading the book of past. Do you want to read the book of present? Liu seemed to be in the mood to play around and wanted to tease Hong Yi. Of course, teasing wasn't the purpose. Liu had other plans. Present? Could it be the present Tathagata? Hong Yi's heart trembled again. At this moment, Hong Yi didn't have any doubts about Liu anymore. The past Amitabha Sutra that he obtained must have been given to him by this Brother Li. Moreover, this Brother Li seemed to be planning to give him the present Tathagata Sutra again. What kind of expert was this Brother Li? Liu? You? At this moment, Hong Yi thought back to the pillar of chaotic energy he had once seen, to the words "My name is Yu," that resounded through the heavens. You? Emperor Yu? Hong Yi was so shocked that his jaw almost dropped. Chapter 229. Emperor Yu. Even with Hong Yi's temperament, he was so shocked that he could not speak coherently. Young man, I have faith in you. Liu smiled and waved his hand. An invisible wave swept across and took away the past Amitabha Sutra that was hidden in Hong Yi's chest. With a flick of his finger, a little light rushed into Hong Yi's mind. The Tathagata Now Sutra was integrated into Hong Yi's mind. Of course, this Tathagata Now Sutra was derived by the system. With the past Amitabha Sutra and the outline of the Tathagata Now Sutra, it was not a problem for the system to derive the entire Tathagata Now Sutra. Young man, the era of great competition is coming. I look forward to the surprises you will bring me. Liu chuckled and waved his hand at Hong Yi. He bent down and picked up Little Tingting. Together with the three little foxes, he floated away while playing with each other. You? Are you that person? Hong Yi snapped out of his daze and shouted at Liu's back. My heart is like floating clouds, my mind is like flowing water. The figure that floated away did not look back. Only a faint song could be heard. You're a young man yourself. How dare you call someone else a young man? Really? Young Mu angrily glared in the direction where Liu had left and stomped his feet. You're wrong. Hong Yi shook his head at young Mu and looked at Liu's back with admiration. He said softly, He's not a young man. His Majesty Emperor Yu is so kind. I can't let His Majesty Emperor Yu down. Hong Yi took a deep breath and clenched his fists tightly. Ha. Liu had a great time with Tingting and the little foxes on the street. Of course, Liu was even happier that he had fooled Hong Yi. The past Amitabha Sutra, the present Tathagata Sutra, and the Future Lifeless Sutra were the foundation of EZ's path. On the basis of these three scriptures, EZ created his own Tao and wrote the Book of Changes. According to the normal course of events, the Cosmos sack would have fallen into Hong Yi's hands, and he would have obtained the current Tathagata Sutra's general principles. Now that this thing was in Li Yu's hands, even if Hong Yi had great ability, he could not get it. When Li Yu gave out the Tathagata Present Sutra, it was not because he wanted to give out treasures or techniques to anyone he met. It was also not because he wanted to flatter the future EZ. Li Yu's only goal was the Book of Changes. This was a classic that allowed Hong Yi to advance to the Nirvana realm. If Li Yu messed around and Hong Yi couldn't write this book in the end, then it would be a huge loss. Today's investment was for future gains. Li Yu had even invested in a guy like the Marquis of Champion. How could Li Yu let go of this EZ, who had become an immortal in 6 years? After playing for half a day, Ting Ting and the little foxes were all hungry. Therefore, Li Yu found a restaurant and planned to taste the delicacies of this world. I hope I don't run into any scams again. After going upstairs, Li Yu found a private room and sat down. Suddenly, he remembered the scene of eating in Ting Ting's hometown. Fortunately, things did not go as Li Yu had expected. The meal was very peaceful, and Ting Ting and the little foxes ate very happily. Especially the little foxes, who loved the roast chicken so much that Li Yu could only give each of them a roast chicken to send them off. There was no problem with the meal, but Li Yu found a problem. Behind the private room Li Yu was eating in, there was a secret room. A god statue in the secret room emitted a strange wave. It was disorderly, indefinite, and boundless. It was like the vast void, yet it was profound and unfathomable. Ajati Matriarch, Vacuum Hometown. Li Yu chuckled. What a coincidence. I was just looking for a place to eat, but I actually came to the territory of the Ajati sect? The Ajati sect and Vacuum sect were sects founded by the Sutra of Future Lifeless. Although they were called evil sects, the person behind them was actually the Crown Prince of Deqian. They used their sects to collect the power of faith of all people in the world, and turned their souls into God. I'm still very interested in the Sutra of Future Lifeless. Since I've run into it, let's take a look. Li Yu glanced in the direction of the secret room, waved his hand casually, and ordered the system in his mind. System, scan the secret room and show me the situation inside. An invisible wave swept across, and everything in the secret room was clearly displayed in front of Li Yu. In the secret room, a figure shrouded in a black robe bowed respectfully in front of the god statue, and was praying to it. Buzz! The god statue trembled slightly, and instantly emitted a dazzling light. 7 beams of dazzling divine light formed a halo behind the god statue's head, making the god statue look extremely sacred and majestic. You said that there are great Confucian scholars entering the city every day? A majestic voice came from the god statue. Yes, Sect Master, I saw it with my own eyes. Ever since the treasure hunt in Emperor Yu's cave abode, Emperor Qian has been summoning all the great Confucian scholars in the world to the capital. Even now, there are still great Confucian scholars rushing over. The black-robed figure answered respectfully. So, Emperor Qian hasn't deciphered the heavenly book of Emperor Yu? The god statue pondered, and the dazzling halo shone continuously. Decipher the heavenly book of Emperor Yu? Li Yu was stunned. The Soul Race Battle Technique scroll that I threw in is called the Heavenly Book of Emperor Yu? Why is there a need to decipher a Soul Race cultivation technique? So that's how it is. Thinking of this, Li Yu realized that the Soul Race cultivation technique that he threw out randomly was actually the original version from another world. They were all written in another world's language. No wonder you have to find people everywhere to translate it. Haha. Li Yu laughed inwardly. It's not the language of this world. Even if you find people from all over the world, you won't be able to translate it. Li Yu was very happy that he had unintentionally tricked someone again. He would not have to pay for it with his life. The one that came out of the god statue should be the sect master of the lifeless sect, the lifeless matriarch. Li Yu's lips curled into a faint smile. Since the future lifeless sutra has been delivered to my doorstep, I might as well take it. It's not a big deal anyway. Li Yu glanced in the direction of the secret chamber and uttered 2 words softly, confine. His words were the laws of heaven and earth. No one dared to disobey his command. In the secret room, the heaven and earth essence chi froze like ice, trapping the black-robed man and the god statue in the secret room. This was a new skill that Li Yu came up with through the system's analysis after obtaining the absolute command spell from the godly Eagle King. The lifeless sect brings chaos to the world. Their crimes are punishable by death, Li Yu said softly. With a wave of his hand, an invisible wave swept across and sucked the god statue and the black-robed man into the resource vault. At this moment, in the Crown Prince's eastern palace, a heavenly voice rang out. The lifeless sect brings chaos to the world. Their crimes are punishable by death. Ah! As soon as he finished speaking, an old woman let out a blood-curdling scream and fell to the ground, no longer making a sound. At the same time, all the god statues of the lifeless matriarch in Deqian shattered. The lifeless sect brings chaos to the world. Their crimes are punishable by death. The heavenly voice rang out in every place where the god's statue shattered. This is heaven's punishment? In the entire world, everyone related to the lifeless sect was scared out of their wits. Chapter 230. All the lifeless sect members were scared out of their wit. The Zenkingism, which was on par with the lifeless sect, was also trembling with fear. The lifeless sect was destroyed because of one sentence. Could the Zenkingism escape? Taoist Zenkingism was already pale. As the leader of the Zenkingism, he was one of the 2 subordinates who collected faith for Crown Prince Yang Yuan. Now, the Ajati matriarch had been killed by a single sentence. How could Taoist Zenkingism not be shocked? The lifeless sect was a cult, but so was the Zenkingism. At this time, Taoist Zenkingism could only run to the Crown Prince's East Palace to seek protection. Unlike those fools, Taoist Zenkingism knew that the death of the lifeless mother was not a punishment of heaven, but a very powerful cultivator. No one could escape from heaven's punishment, but cultivators were different. With the Crown Prince's protection, would there be any cultivator who dared to attack the Crown Prince's East Palace? Taoist Zenkingism rode on the 9 halos and whizzed through the air, rushing toward the Crown Prince's East Palace. Another one comes to me? After dinner, Li Yu continued to play with Little Tingting. Because Little Tingting said she wanted to see what the palace looked like. So Li Yu brought Little Tingting to the vicinity of the Imperial City. Li Yu, who was looking at the Imperial City, suddenly saw a colorful light breaking through the air. The energy wave was very similar to the one on the statue just now. 9 halos? Is this the leader of the Zenkingism? Li Yu laughed. He thought that the lifeless mother with 7 halos might not have mastered the Sutra of Future Lifeless. But now Taoist Zenkingism came to him. Imprison! He spat out 2 words softly, and the colorful light that was flying at high speed froze instantly. The Zenkingism is a scourge to the common people. You deserve to be punished. With a wave of his hand, an invisible wave swept across and instantly took Taoist Zenkingism into the system resource vault. So, the same thing happened again. All the statues of the Zenkingism in the world shattered, and the mighty voice sounded again. Heaven's punishment! Heaven's punishment! Heaven's punishment! The same thing happened twice in a row, and the name, Heaven's punishment, spread like wildfire. The news of the lifeless and Zenkingism being punished by heaven's punishment spread across the world. Damn it! Who is it? Who is it? Crown Prince Yang Yuan smashed a pile of exquisite porcelain viciously. After Autarch Qian and Hong Xuanji heard the news, they looked at each other in silence. Then, the forging of the supreme artifact, the Boat of Fortune, sped up even further. After obtaining the inheritance of the Tao of Creation, Autarch Qian had been collecting resources all these years. He wanted to create a supreme divine artifact, the Boat of Creation, which could suppress the ages and become a supreme emperor. Emperor, you had achieved the great Tao of the Sun God, the Marquis of Champion's unexpected rise. The dream god base was about to undergo its 8th tribulation, and now there was another powerful existence who had mastered heavenly punishment. This made Autarch Qian and Hong Xuanji extremely anxious. Liu naturally didn't care about this. He accompanied Shouting Ting and the 3 little foxes to play in the Jade Capital for 3 days. Everything that could be seen and everything that could be played was seen. Only then did he leave the Jade Capital and return to the valley of the West Mountain. Back in the secluded valley, Liu began to deal with the Ajati matriarch and the vacuum Taoist. You guys are really unlucky. Liu smiled and shook his head as he glanced at the resource warehouse. The Ajati matriarch is fine. The vacuum Taoist was the one who ran into trouble. If you hadn't delivered yourself to me, I wouldn't have bothered to look for you. Although the 2 of them were very unlucky, Liu didn't have much sympathy for people who used evil cults to harm others. System, extract their memories. Enter the Sutra of Death from the future into the resource warehouse. Extract their God power halos, purify and fuse them into a pure God power halo. The rest will be directly converted into system energy. Liu's casual words had decided the fate of the 2 of them. To Liu, the purified God power halo could be used to absorb the pure soul energy within. Of course, the most important use was to show off. A sacred and glorious halo behind his head was completely the image of a Buddha. Leaving the God power halo behind, Liu focused his attention on the Sutra of Death from the future. The Sutra of Death from the future, extracted from the 2's memories, was the complete book, but not the original. It didn't have the Buddha statue that represented the infinite possibilities of the future. To others, this could be a huge problem. Without the Buddha statue, one wouldn't be able to understand the true meaning of the infinite future. To cultivate this book, one could only use the power of incense like the Ajati matriarch and the vacuum Taoist. They couldn't absorb the power of the incense to strengthen their soul. However, this wasn't difficult for Liu. System, combine the past Amitabha Sutra and the present Tathagata Sutra with the Sutra of Death from the future to deduce the true meaning of the future Buddha's infinite future. Past, present, and future, the Trinity. Combining the path of eternal instant with the infinite scripture's ability to control time, Liu's mastery of the power of time had improved. The system quickly completed Liu's instructions and handed over the completed Sutra of Death from the future. The future is infinite. Only with great wisdom can one see the future and control it. After reading the Sutra of Death from the future, Liu nodded thoughtfully. Comprehend the past with the heart, grasp the present with strength, and guide the future with wisdom. I see. The great Zen temple's 3 sutras cultivated the heart, and the present sutra cultivated the strength. This Sutra of Death from the future cultivated wisdom. With a single thought, one could perform billions of deductions and calculations. This ability, Liu was very envious. In the Kangwu Academy, he had collected countless books and information. They were still stored in the resource vault and hadn't been touched. The various information, techniques, and skills that he had collected over the past few worlds were still stored in the resource vault. If he could grasp the power of wisdom of the Sutra of Death from the future, as long as the system poured the knowledge into his mind, he would be able to absorb it and turn it into his own knowledge. In the end, the system was an external object. The right path was to return the power to himself. At this thought, Liu began to comprehend the Sutra of Death from the future. The 3 sutras of Great Zen Temple were very compatible with Li Yu's sovereign path. The past, the present, the future, the heart, strength, and wisdom could all be attributed to the sovereign path. Therefore, it was very easy for Li Yu to comprehend the Sutra of Death from the future. Wisdom? I seem to have something that specializes in increasing wisdom. Li Yu's mind stirred. From the immortal mansion garden in the mall space, he activated the wisdom of the Bodhi tree and enhanced the power of understanding. The true meaning of using wisdom to guide the future of the Sutra of Death from the future circulated in his soul. In his sea of consciousness, light shone brightly. Amidst the dazzling radiance of the self-energy aspect, the radiance of wisdom flickered. Ding! A clear and melodious sound rang out. A brilliant halo bloomed behind the self-energy aspect's head. Endless light of wisdom circulated in the halo. It was as if the pearl of wisdom was in his hand. The rise and fall of the world, success and failure, the life and death of all things, only needed a thought to know. Of course, this was an illusion. After this phenomenon disappeared, the only thing Li Yu felt was that his memory and logical thinking ability had improved tremendously. Chapter 231. 5 months passed in the blink of an eye. The Marquis Champion officially set off from Qingzhou. It took him 5 months to reach the South Sea Navy camp. On the vast ocean there was a forest of boats. Huge warships broke through the waves, and pitch-black ballista cannons lined up on both sides of the ship. They were like huge 3-edged crossbow bolts, and like spears made of pure steel. Great Qian Navy, the Marquis of Champion stepped out of the carriage and glanced around with a smile on his face. Compared to the Yunmeng Empire, the Great Qian dynasty's navy is very ordinary. The strongest warship of Yunmeng was the flagship of the navy, Yunmeng, while the strongest warship of Great Qian was the Emperor's dragon boat. They had spent a huge amount of manpower and resources to build the strongest warship that could not be used even once in 10 years, but it could only be left to mold in the dock. It was impossible for the navy not to be weak. Next, the Marquis Champion took out the Imperial Edict and took over the South Sea Navy. The Marquis Champion did not pay attention to the naval battle with Yunmeng. He was concerned about what tricks the Qian Emperor would play with the Qiankuan pouch. Deputy General Hong Yi of Jinghai Army? Wipe out Fury Dragon Island and kill Bai Mei, Lu Mei and Qi Mei? Not bad. To be able to kill the 3 island masters of Fury Dragon Island, Hong Yi's strength is at least a Khanate martial master. On this day, the Marquis Champion saw the military report sent by his subordinate. When he saw the familiar name, Hong Yi, it reminded him of the scene when he fought with Hong Xuanji in Sanhua Brothel. At that time, Hong Yi was still a weak scholar. His qi and blood were not even comparable to ordinary martial artists. How long has it been? In a few months, his strength has increased so quickly? The Marquis Champion laughed and a gloating expression appeared on his face. Hong Xuanji, your son will probably bring you a lot of trouble. Father and son turning against each other, drawing their swords against each other, it's really good to see. Reporting, just as the Marquis of Champion was rejoicing in the misfortune of others, a messenger rushed into the tent while shouting loudly. What's the matter? The Marquis Champion looked up at the messenger and asked. Reporting to the Marquis, a scout has come to report. The 300 warships of Yunmeng's fleet, led by Yunmeng, have gathered in the outer sea. There seems to be movement. Please make a decision. Oh? Are they finally moving? Marquis Champion chuckled. Old bastard, did you include the Western Cloud Empire's fleet in your calculations? Haha, looks like the show is about to start. When the Qiankuan bag appeared, the fleet of the Western Cloud Empire would definitely not sit still after receiving the news. At this moment, the Western Cloud Empire's fleet had gathered. The Qian Emperor must have deliberately revealed the information about the Qiankuan bag to the Western Cloud Empire. Beat the drums. Gather the generals. Set out. Victory! The messenger shouted loudly and left to carry out the order. Following which, the war drums in the South Sea Navy's camp began to thump. Soldiers! Banners fluttered in the wind, and rows of oars formed a forest. The Marquis of Champion stood on the high platform. With a clang, he unsheathed the sword at his waist and pointed it towards the south. The fleets of the Western Cloud Empire have gathered in the outer sea, intending to invade our sea territory. Today, this Marquis swears to lead his troops into battle. Soldiers of the three armies, work as one and follow me to wipe out Yuanmeng. Victory! 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 In an instant, the roar of the mountains soared into the clouds. Overflowing killing intent shook the heavens and the earth. Set off. With the Marquis of Champions' roar, thousands of ships set off and the mighty army sailed towards the outer sea. The Marquis of Champion, who had been on the battlefield for a long time, was known as the God of War. At this moment, after comprehending the will of the God of War, the Marquis of Champion's heroic appearance and mighty military power made him look like the reincarnation of the God of War. Riding the wind and breaking the wave, the Marquis of Champion stood at the head of the ship with a solemn and expressionless face. Reporting to the Marquis, the fleet of the Western Cloud Empire sailed out of the Orange Reef Sea and turned towards the outer sea. Marquis, please make a decision. Search again. The Marquis of Champion waved his hand expressionlessly. In fact, the Marquis of Champion was very clear about the whereabouts of the Western Cloud Empire's fleet. If the Western Cloud Empire's fleet really came for the Qianquan bag, there was only one direction, which must be the savage land's Tianju Mountain. I have been leading the army in the South Sea for a few months. It is impossible for Yuanmeng not to know about this. Knowing that I'm here, he still dares to scheme against me. He must have some backing. The Marquis of Champion frowned slightly, but the mysterious Sky Mansion's owner and his wife and the Peacock King are all dead. The Tian Long Dao's owner is not on the same side as Yuanmeng. Who can Yuanmeng send? More importantly, if that old fart wants to make a move on me, knowing that I am a human immortal, who will he send? The Marquis of Champion smiled and returned to the room in the flagship. Monk Jingren and the Condor King are already prepared. Even if the Tianju Mountain is destroyed, I will not lose much. Then I will play with them first. Time slowly passed as the two fleets played hide and seek. On the fifth night, after the Deqian fleet anchored, the Marquis of Champion used void travel to the Tianju Mountain. How is the situation? After seeing Monk Jingren and the Condor King, the Marquis of Champion directly asked, Marquis, the Western Cloud Empire's fleet has already reached the coastal sea. They will definitely stop at the Tianju Bay tonight. I estimate that Yuanmeng's people will attack the Tianju Mountain soon. Monk Jingren reported to the Marquis of Champion. The Marquis of Champion nodded. Make the arrangements and make the preparations. This time, we must catch all the invaders in one fell swoop. Yes. Monk Jingren and the Condor King received the order and left. The Marquis of Champion chuckled. With a thought, his divine soul left his body. A tall and lifelike demon god with two horns on his head and black armor appeared in the room. This was the demonic god body that the Marquis of Champion's divine soul had manifested. After the beginning of spring, the spring thunder struck and the Marquis of Champion had passed the first lightning tribulation. At this moment, his divine soul was already a first tribulation ghost immortal. Using the war god demonic scripture to manifest the demonic god body, it was a real body with flesh and blood. If I go out like this, I won't have to worry about being recognized. The Marquis of Champion chuckled. With a wave of his hand, he kept his divine soul into the resource storage. With a shake of his divine soul, the demonic god turned into a black gas and charged out of the room. After circling around the city, The Marquis of Champion's divine soul possessed an ordinary soldier's body. He was prepared to take advantage of the situation. Possession was a technique that could be used at the God realm. With the Marquis of Champion's current strength, it was very easy for him to use it. Before the soldier could understand what was going on, the Marquis of Champion possessed his body. With a turn of his divine soul, the soldier's weak divine soul was knocked unconscious. The Marquis of Champion directly took control of the body. Weak chi and blood. Weak strength. The Marquis of Champion stretched his arms and legs. He was very disdainful of this body. However, in the following battle, he only needed to control the demonic god. He didn't care whether this body was weak or not. I've already spread the net here. How many big fish will I catch this time? Hugging a long spear, the Marquis of Champion leaned against the battlements of the city wall and dozed off with his eyes closed. His divine soul was carefully sensing the movements around him. Buzz, with a slight noise, the Marquis of Champion opened his eyes slightly. He saw a group of figures passing through the illusion array and sneaking towards the city. People from the Cloud Mist Nation? The small fish are already in the net. When will the big fish come? The Marquis of Champion smiled and lowered his head. He let out a soft snore as if he was sleeping soundly. Chapter 232. Hong Yi, I heard that the Qianquan bag appeared in the wasteland. Aren't you going to take a look? On the vast sea near the Jing Sea camp, a beautiful girl is standing on a huge silver shark. She jumps up from the water and lands on Hong Yi's ship. This is Chan Insha, one of the 8 great demon immortals in the world, the Silver Shark King. Insha, you are here? Hong Yi smiles and nods. He welcomes the girl into a room in the ship. A few days ago, after getting to know Chan Insha, Hong Yi has a good impression of this straightforward girl. The two of them look at each other and their relationship quickly increases. Hong Yi, rumor has it that the Qianquan bag contains the great Zen temple's past, present and future scriptures. If we can get our hands on such a peerless scripture, we will have no problem passing a few lightning tribulations. The moment they enter, Chan Insha says to Hong Yi anxiously. Ha! Insha, you are wrong. Hong Yi smiles and shakes his head at Chan Insha. The Qianquan bag definitely doesn't have those 3 scriptures. Because I know who has those 3 scriptures. What? You know the whereabouts of the 3 scriptures? Tell me quickly, we will go and snatch. Don't. Hearing this, Hong Yi sweats on his forehead. I don't dare to snatch it. Furthermore, there is no need to snatch it. Chan Insha is indeed a demon immortal. She is really lawless. She even dares to snatch from Emperor Yu? Even if you want to court death, this is not the way. Furthermore, Emperor Yu has already bestowed 2 out of the 3 scriptures. If he begs, he might even bestow the 3rd one. Therefore, Hong Yi does not intend to get involved in the Qianquan bag. No need to snatch it? Chan Insha looks at Hong Yi doubtfully. Yes, because the past and present scriptures have already been bestowed to me by His Majesty Emperor Yu. Hong Yi smiles and answers. Emperor Yu? Chan Insha looks at Hong Yi in shock. You are actually related to His Majesty Emperor Yu? What is your background? Emperor Yu attained the Tao and left behind a treasure for a fated person. How would Chan Insha not know? If not for the fact that her cultivation has not recovered after reincarnation, Chan Insha has already planned to snatch the treasure. I don't have any background. Hong Yi smiled and shook his head. It's just a coincidence that I got to know Emperor Yu. I was recognized by Emperor Yu and bestowed upon me 2 classics. Now that I think about it, it's simply like a dream. Once you know him, you gave him the past and present 2nd classics? Why haven't I encountered such a good thing? Chan Insha rolled her eyes fiercely. Why didn't you touch it? Want to learn? I'll teach you. Ah! Chan Insha looked at Hong Yi in shock. Is this okay? His Majesty Emperor, you didn't say anything about it. Why not? After that, Hong Ian Chan Insha focused on studying the scriptures and no longer cared about the Qiankuan pouch. On the marquee champion's side, Hong Ian Chan Insha didn't come, but everyone else did. The moment the people from the Cloud Mist Kingdom arrived, they were discovered by Monk Jingren and the Divine Eagle King. How dare you! Monk Jingren picked up his copper rod and charged towards the people from the Cloud Mist Kingdom. The Divine Eagle King disguised himself as Wu Gudao and had 5 zombie kings by his side. Hundreds of flying yikshaws flew into the sky and started fighting with the people from the Cloud Mist Kingdom. Just as they started fighting, 2 groups of people rushed into the illusion array of the Tianju Mountain. On one side were hundreds of people wearing heavy armor and holding 3 pointed double-edged swords. Their bodies were filled with blood qi. The person leading them was wearing dark golden scale armor and had a murderous aura. He was like a god of war. The Qian Dark Dragon Guards? That's Commander Yang Fan? Is this Emperor Qian's method? The marquee champion frowned slightly and felt surprised. The Dark Dragon Guards were extraordinary, and each of them was at least a Khanate martial master. Commander Yang Fan was even a martial sage. This force was very strong. But it was obviously not enough to deal with a human immortal like the marquee champion. Other than the Dark Dragon Guards, another group of people came from the west region. It was a middle-aged man in a red robe, holding a bronze scripture in his hand. Behind him were dozens of figures in plate armor. The Essence Temple's red priests and holy knights? Are they here to join in the fun? The marquee champion glanced at the 3 groups of people and smiled coldly. If it's just these small fries, I'm really disappointed. Kill the remaining members of the Great Zen Temple. Once the Dark Dragon Guards entered, they waved their swords and charged towards Monk Jingren. God said that heretics are not to be protected. Kill them all. The people from the Essence Temple also joined in the battle without hesitation. Therefore, together with the people from the Tianju Mountain, a total of 4 groups of people gathered. They were all enemies, and once they saw each other, they waved their swords and attacked. A chaotic battle broke out. Essence Holy Light Technique, Courage, Power, Glory. The red priests opened the bronze scripture in their hands, and 3 beams of light shot out to support the holy knights, making them even more ferocious. 5 dragons killing formation. Kill, kill, kill. The Dark Dragon Guards of the Great Qian Dynasty immediately got into a formation, and the 3 pointed double-edged sabers were like a wall of sabers that smashed over with a loud boom. Xiantian Wuji. Destructive Divine Power. When the people from the Yunmeng nation saw that the situation was not right, they also started to exert their strength. Once the 3 groups exerted their strength, Monk Jingren and the King of the Divine Eagles could no longer hold on. The battle line was in danger and could collapse at any time. Looks like we won't be able to catch any big fish. The marquee champion was a little disappointed. However, it was time to strike. If he did not, Monk Jingren and the King of the Divine Eagles would not be able to hold on. Roar! An earth-shattering roar was heard. A strong, domineering, fierce, and violent aura shot up to the sky. Amidst the billowing black gas, a ferocious demon god with 2 horns on his head roared and stepped out. Conquer, plunder, and possess. Demon flames filled the sky and killing intent filled the air. This demon god was very lifelike and seemed to be a real existence. No matter how real a divine spirit was, it would always feel a little illusory. However, this demon god was no longer a demon god formed by a divine spirit. It was a real existence with flesh and blood. After Li Yu's experiment on the fusion of divine spirit and martial arts, the marquee champion was able to unleash the ferocious power of a human immortal of the martial way. Yin and Yang as one. Spirit and body as one. There is such a person in the Wugui Dao? The appearance of the demon god made everyone on the battlefield turn pale with fright. Kill. The Marquis champion did not have the habit of greeting before attacking. After the demon god appeared, he picked up the long spear in the hands of the soldier and charged at the battle formation in front of him. Puff! The long spear was like a raging dragon that had broken free from its shackles. It shot out like lightning and pierced through the Essence Temple Knight in front of him. The long spear in the hands of the soldier was too weak. After stabbing a Temple Knight to death, the long spear shattered. The demon god picked up the Temple Knight's battle axe and charged into the battle formation of the Temple Knights as if he was chopping vegetables. Puff, 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 puff. Blood splattered and the corpse was decapitated. The Marquis champion killed his way through the battle formation of the Temple Knights of the Essence Temple and charged in front of the red-robed priest. God said, F***CKU. The sharp axe swung down and the red-robed priest was decapitated in an instant. Chapter 233. The red-robed priest's name was Tu Yuan, one of the 4 saints of the Essence Temple. Tu Yuan had passed the first thunder tribulation, and his divine soul had turned from yin to yang. Even if his body died, his divine soul could continue to live. However, before Tu Yuan could extricate himself from the divine soul, the Taotai revealed itself. A huge mouth, like a black hole, swept across Tu Yuan and swallowed his head and body in an instant. Roar! The demon god roared to the sky, turned around, and swept his axe like a gust of wind. The few remaining Temple Knights of the Essence Yuan Temple were all killed. Damn it! When did the Wuguei sect have such a powerful figure? In the blink of an eye, nearly 100 people of the Essence Temple were killed. How could the crowd not be shocked by such a monstrous power? Kill. After wiping out the people of the Essence Temple, the Marquis champion controlled the demon god's body and continued to kill with his axe. With the fusion of divine soul and martial arts, the Marquis champion could exert the strength of a human immortal with the demon god's body. The most powerful soldiers were only Xiantian martial masters. They were no match for him at all. Mysterious Heaven Axe. A figure appeared in front of the Marquis champion, holding a long-handled axe and wearing a pitch-black armor. This person was the general of the Yuan Meng army, Black Wolf King Bai Shihua. When the Black Wolf King saw the demon god coming, the axe in his hand bloomed with a deep black light. A force that could tear the sky suddenly burst out and chopped down at the demon god's head. Black Wolf King, one of the 8 demon immortals in the world? After being reincarnated as a ghost immortal, he turned to the path of martial arts? Interesting. The Marquis champion sneered. His divine soul is just a ghost immortal who has not passed the thunder tribulation, and his martial arts cultivation is not even a martial saint. He wanted to advance together, but in the end, he achieved nothing. Roar. The demon god roared, and the huge axe in his hand met the mysterious heaven axe of the Black Wolf King and chopped down fiercely. Boom! A loud explosion was heard. The demon god's axe was still a little weaker and shattered under the collision. However, the Black Wolf King was even more miserable. He was not even a martial saint. How could he resist the demon god's martial arts? The violent impact directly shook the Black Wolf King until blood spurted out of his 7 orifices, and he fell to the ground. Can't even withstand a single blow. The Marquis of Champions sneered. With a wave of his hand, he grabbed the Black Wolf King's profound heaven axe. He picked up his axe and charged out again. At this moment, Monk Jingren was fighting with the commander of the Great Qian Dynasty's Dark Dragon Guards, Yang Fan. The Condor King pretended to be a cultivator of the witchcraft sect. He drove the Corpse King and the Flying Yiksha to fight with a woman from the Cloud Mist Kingdom who was holding a strange long sword. Marquis Champion picked up the axe and rushed into the Yunmeng army. He killed all the warriors who were only Khanate masters and then turned around and rushed to the Dark Dragon Guards of the Great Qian Dynasty. The giant axe swung, and there was no way it could withstand a single blow. As blood splattered, the Marquis of Champion killed all of the Shadow Dragon guards. Damn it! In an instant, the situation was reversed. The three parties were all killed by the demon god. The woman from the Cloud Mist Kingdom and the commander of the Shadow Dragon guards, Yang Fan, were both shocked and furious. Jingren, go and help Shening. Leave this person to me. The Marquis Champion roared, and with his god-devil body, he brandished his axe and rushed towards Yang Fan. Rushing Thunder Fury Chop. Seeing the demon god brandishing his axe, Yang Fan's heart tightened. He knew that a life-and-death crisis was in front of him. With a roar, he unleashed all his strength and swung his long saber at the demon god. Boom! 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 Thunderous sounds exploded from Yang Fan's body. His muscles swelled, and streaks of electricity flowed on the surface of his body. He was awe-inspiring, like a thunder god descending to the mortal world. In Yang Fan's hand, dazzling electric light burst out from the three-pointed, double-edged saber. It was like a thunderbolt as it slashed towards the demon god. This was the strongest martial technique of the great Qian dynasty's Dark Dragon Guards against divine soul cultivators. Thunderbolt represented the righteousness of heaven and earth, masculine and mighty, unparalleled. To divine soul cultivators, Thunderbolt was a heavenly tribulation. Is that all you can do? The Marquis Champion curled his lips in disdain. The commander of the great Qian dynasty's Dark Dragon Guards, is that all you can do? Then go to hell. Although it was a divine soul body, the demon god's body was no different from a real body after his spirit and body became one. Die! The pitch-black axe drew an arc in the air as it chopped down at Yang Fan. Boom! A violent shock wave surged and the axe in Yang Fan's hand shattered with a cracking sound. The axe pierced through Yang Fan's chest and sliced him into two. Roar! The fiend celestial raised his bloodied battle axe and roared into the skies with a torrential might. Damn it! The remaining woman of Cloud Mist Country turned pale when she saw the might of the fiend celestial. Boom! 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 The fiend celestial dragged his bloodied battle axe and walked towards the woman with heavy footstep. His ferocious aura was overwhelming. It was as though everything was set in stone and the woman was a lamb waiting to be slaughtered. However, when the fiend celestial approached, the woman's lips curled into a cold smile. You forced me to do this. The woman knelt on the ground and raised the pitch-black, twisted sword above her head while chanting loudly. Disciple Nalan Divine Moon kowtows sincerely. With the impermanence sword as the sacrifice, with blood and soul as the guide, descend. My lord, Mahakala Fiend Celestial. A dazzling black light blossomed from the pitch-black sword, and a deep darkness surged forth like a volcanic eruption. A 30-meter-tall, pitch-black, ferocious and ruthless demon god with huge horns appeared in the darkness. The Marquis Champion smiled when he saw the Mahakala Fiend Celestial. Mahakala? It's been a long time. The Marquis Champion had been chased away by the Mahakala Fiend Celestial during his first battle with the Sky Snake King. I wonder how many blows you can take from my axe, eh? At this moment, the Marquis Champion suddenly realized that the mystic heaven axe in his hand had changed. An aura of destruction surged from the axe. Disciple by Shihua kowtows sincerely. With the mystic heaven axe as the sacrifice, with the flames of war and slaughter as the guide, descend, my lord, Destruction Fiend Celestial. Black Wolf King by Shihua, who had been knocked down by the Marquis Champion's axe, still had a breath left. At this moment, he cast the god's descent spell and summoned the Destruction Fiend Celestial. Boom! There was a loud explosion. The mystic heaven axe flew out of his hand and exploded in midair. Amidst the raging flames, a huge figure stepped out. Destruction, destruction, flames of war and monstrous bloodlust surged. It's the god's descent spell? Monk Jing Rin and King Condor looked at each other, their faces filled with shock. The two in front of them were not fiend celestial images formed by divine souls. They were real gods. In the Western Cloud Empire, hundreds of millions of people worshipped four gods. The longevity heaven represented the people's love and desire for life. The Jixiang heaven represented the people's pursuit and yearning for a happy life. The Mahakala heaven represented the people's fear of death and darkness. The destruction heaven represented the people's fear of war and destruction. Among the four gods, the longevity heaven and the Jixiang heaven were kind and beautiful. However, they did not have much fighting power. On the other hand, the Mahakala heaven and the destruction heaven were the symbols of death and destruction. They were extremely powerful. Two gods? The Marquis champion, who had transformed into a fiend celestial, stuck out his scarlet tongue and licked his lip. He smiled with his huge mouth full of fangs. It's been a long time since I devoured a god. Chapter 234. Darkness is the eternal destination. Death is the inevitable journey. After the Mahakala demon god manifested, it swept a glance below with its majestic aura. Its nose twitched. I smell blood and death. Boom. The destruction demon god landed heavily from the sky, causing the ground to rumble. I hate your sour way of doing things the most. The Mahakala demon god of destruction curled its lips, a string of sparks spurting out of its nostrils. Turning its head to look at the Marquis of Champion and the rest, Destruction Heaven raised a giant flaming hammer in his hand and pointed it at the demon god transformed by the Marquis of Champion. "And how do you want to die?" "Haha, how interesting!" The demon god transformed by the Marquis of Champion looked up at the two giant demon gods. "After being a god for so long, is your brain not enough? You're only at the level of a 4-tribulation ghost immortal, and you dare to be arrogant in front of me?" Raising a finger and shaking it lightly, the Marquis of Champion said disdainfully, "Both of you, come at me together. Ant, you're courting death." Destruction Heaven roared, swinging his giant hammer and smashing it down on the Marquis of Champion's head. "Embrace darkness." Mahakala clasped his hands together. Endless darkness bloomed in his hands. "Idiot!" The Marquis of Champion snorted angrily. The demon god body formed by his spirit collapsed instantly. A clear light flashed, the Marquis of Champion's body appeared, and his spirit returned to his body instantly. Facing two demon gods, his spirit body alone could not withstand them. At this time, there was no need to hide his identity, so the Marquis of Champion changed back to his immortal body. Roar! A series of thunder-like roars erupted from the acupoints all over his body. After revealing his immortal body, the Marquis of Champion roared at the sky. His mighty immortal blood chi was like the sun in the sky. His violent martial will was like a volcanic eruption. Boom! The immortal roared, and the ghost immortals were terrified. Ghost referred to the ghost immortals. God referred to the incense gods. Even Mahakala and Destruction Heaven, who were equivalent to 4-tribulation ghost immortals, were stunned by the Marquis of Champion's roar. Avicii killing Tao. The heavenly light horn godly armor on his body burst out a burst of blood-red brilliance, and the divine spear of war in his hand was like a furious dragon leaving its shackle. On the tip of the spear, the light that was condensed to the extreme was like the stars at dawn, bright and glorious. Ka 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 ka. The spear shadow pierced through the air, and a burst of continuous cracking sound resounded in the space. This was the sound of space shattering. This voice was not unfamiliar to Mahakala and Havoc Heaven. When a divine soul cultivator crossed 4 thunder tribulations, they could create a world with a single thought. After overcoming 5 lightning tribulations, one would be able to shatter the void. This cracking sound was the sound of an incomparably tyrannical power shattering the void. He's actually this powerful? Even an ordinary human immortal would not be able to win against 2 immortals who had undergone 4 thunder tribulations. There was a very important problem here. That was, deities could fly, but beginner human immortals could not. 2 deities with 4 lightning tribulations were flying in the sky. Under the constant bombardment, even a beginner human immortal would be defeated sooner or later. But this kind of power that could even shatter the void was not something a beginner human immortal could do. Even an advanced human immortal with all his acupoints fully opened would probably only be at this level, right? Of course, after an advanced human immortal, the fist intense substance, rebirth from a drop of blood, infinite transformation, and even shattering the void were not the same concepts. Facing the Marquis Champion's move, the 2 demon immortals withdrew their arrogant attitude, and their expressions turned serious. Endless black sky, dark sky veil. Endless darkness rushed out from Mahakala's hand, turning into a black crystal-like light veil, blocking in front of him. Wall of destruction. The blazing giant hammer in Havoc Heaven's hand turned into a giant wall-like shield, blocking the Marquis Champion's spear. 2 points of spear light flashed, and the dazzling cold light swept across the sky like shooting stars. Crack! The dark sky veil was pierced through like an eggshell. Crack! The giant wall-like shield was pierced through like a piece of paper. Ah! Roar! A huge hole opened up in the chests of the 2 deities, and wisps of green smoke were emitted, as if they were scorched by a blazing fire. The chi and blood of a human immortal, to the deities and divine souls, was like a raging fire. Is it very painful? You won't feel any pain soon. A deep black light suddenly flashed out from the Marquis Champion's hand, like a seed sprouting. It grew rapidly, and instantly turned into a pitch-black flower. Dark Mandara? How did you? The 2 deities who were stabbed by the Marquis Champion suddenly saw the dark Mandara flower in the Marquis Champion's hand, and were both shocked and amused. You want to use the dark Mandara canopy to deal with us? As the 4 great deities of the Yunmeng Kingdom, they were extremely familiar with this signature skill of the profound Heaven Holy Land. How could this sealing skill possibly seal Mahakala and Havoc Heaven? They could break free from the seal in less than a breath. It seems like we can beat them at their own game? Wait for that kid to think that we are sealed, and then suddenly attack him without warning? The 2 deities looked at each other, and the moment their divine souls touched, they completed the communication. Thus, they pretended to be heavily injured and did not react quickly, allowing the Marquis Champion's sealing boundary to envelop the 2 deities. The seal of the womb concealment enchantment rotated and sealed the 2 god spirit. In an instant they turned into a pitch-black crystal. The 2 deities were eager to try, waiting for the moment the Marquis Champion to put away the crystal, and then they would immediately break the seal and launch a surprise attack, attempting to kill the Marquis Champion in one strike. Then there was no then. Idiots! The Marquis Champion sneered, and the image of Tautai soared into the sky. Under the shocked gazes of the 2 deities, Tautai swallowed the pitch-black crystal formed by the canopy in one gulp. Idiots who think themselves clever. The Marquis Champion curled his lips in disdain. You say that others are idiots, but you yourself are not that smart. My son. A faint voice rang out. This voice was very soft and also very calm, as if it was an ordinary conversation. However, after this voice rang out, the entire space suddenly froze. A boundless aura enveloped the entire Tianju mountain. The wind stopped, the clouds stopped, and everything in the surroundings seemed to not dare to move after this voice rang out. Yang Pan. Hearing this voice, the Marquis Champion's expression changed, and he suddenly turned to look behind him. On the forehead of the long-dead commander of the Dark Dragon Guards, Yang Pan, a dazzling radiance lit up. With a rumble, the radiance blossomed like the sun in the sky. A stalwart middle-aged man with a dignified bearing appeared from the radiance. My son, no wonder you grew up so quickly. It turns out that the treasure of Emperor Yu's cave actually fell into your hands. Autarch Qian's figure landed on the ground, and he walked step by step towards the Marquis Champion with a smile on his face. My son, on the day you were born, I knew there was something wrong with you. That's why I used a technique to fuse your spirit and body, making it impossible for your spirit to escape. Autarch Chien glanced at the Marquis Champion, and sighed as he shook his head. In any case, you are still father and son. I originally thought that I could at least let you have a good ending. Unfortunately, you don't know when to stop, and are seeking your own death. We can only send you on your way. TSK. Don't talk about being father and son. There aren't any outsiders, so what's the point of being so hypocritical? The Marquis Champion curled his lips. If it weren't for my extraordinary talent and being able to be raised as a fighter, would you have let me live until now? Now that you feel that you can't control yourself, you want to kill me? Heh. Autarch Chien smiled but did not reply. Old fellow, you came with a clone? I heard that the great Zen temple's future lifeless scripture fell into your hands. Could this clone be the future master? The Marquis Champion glanced at Autarch Chien and asked curiously. My son is indeed more intelligent than others. This is the clone of the future master that I refined. The future master can calculate the future. I can see the great world as clearly as the lines on my palm. Autarch Chien seemed to be very interested in chatting with the Marquis Champion. Calculate the future? The Marquis Champion chuckled. Old fellow, have you calculated your own future? Rumble. An earth-shattering explosion sounded, and a gorgeous spiritual light circulated, forming a huge formation on the ground. Chapter 235. BZZZ. The yuan qi of heaven and earth vibrated. Streaks of ink-black spiritual light whizzed around and instantly formed a huge magic array. A deep darkness took the form of a datura flower in the air. Its vast aura caused the clouds to change color and the sun to dim. The dark heaven, extreme darkness, the datura formation? Autarch Chien smiled as he glanced at the formation that had suddenly manifested. He nodded in approval. Is this your trump card? My son seems arrogant, but he's actually quite cunning. Not bad. Not bad. Not bad? Then you'll have to enjoy it. The Marquis Champion coldly glanced at Autarch Chien and waved his hand. Seal. As soon as he finished speaking, the giant devil's snare floating in the air suddenly descended, covering the Chien Emperor's head. This was the Marquis Champion's trump card. He had laid down the datura formation in order to deal with Autarch Chien's possible attack. If he used the Great Womb formation to seal Autarch Chien, the Marquis Champion would be able to use the Taotai Jade Pendant to devour him, even if it was only for a short time. Just like those two gods, once they were devoured by the Taotai, no matter how powerful they could only obediently accept death. Using a formation to deal with me? The datura flower petals closed in on Autarch Chien, but his expression didn't change at all. Instead, a hint of mockery appeared in his eyes. Since you know this is the incarnation of the future Lord, don't you know his specialty? He can calculate the greater thousand with a single thought. I've already memorized this datura formation of yours many years ago. Autarch Chien extended a finger and waved it. Crack! The datura flower petals crumbled one by one. With just a flick of a finger, the Marquis Champion's trump card, the datura formation, had crumbled. Old fogey, even an incarnation is this powerful? The Marquis Champion grimaced and tightened his grip on the divine spear of war. If he couldn't seal it, he could only fight. The Marquis Champion had some understanding of the incarnation of the future Lord. At the very least, he knew that this was only an incarnation of his soul. Old fogey, you say I'm arrogant. You are the one who is truly arrogant. A divine soul incarnation is actually so close to me, a human immortal of the martial Tao? The Marquis of Champion took a step forward, and the blood and qi in his body erupted like a volcano. His acupoints emitted thunderous roars, and his yang blood and qi were like the scorching sun in the sky. Avicii killing Tao. The Mang divine spear in his hand whistled, and the tip of the spear bloomed with a bright light. The tyrannical power caused the void to emit bursts of cracking sounds. Child, you are only arrogant if you don't have strength. Having strength is called confidence. Autarch Qian smiled faintly. He clasped his hands together and formed a series of seals with his fingers. Kong Tua Seal, Great Compassion Seal, Wish Seal, Sky Capture Seal, 10 Directions Seal, 3 Realms Seal, Vacuum Seal. 8 mystical seals were formed in a row. In the end, the 8 seals combined into one and formed the 9th seal, the Great Perfection Seal. Boom! A gigantic palm print soared into the sky with boundless might, shaking the void. Vacuum palm. The gigantic palm print that blotted out the sky slammed towards the Marquis of Champion. An incomparably huge force came crashing down as if the sky was collapsing. Boom! An earth-shattering sound rang out. The Marquis of Champion and his spear were sent flying by this slap. He crashed into the city walls and collapsed buildings, creating a huge crack in the city. Spitting out a mouthful of blood, the Marquis of Champion was sent flying for more than 10 miles before stabilizing himself. This old fellow is actually so strong? The Marquis of Champion wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth with a sinister expression. Marquis, that's the vacuum palm, the strongest divine soul battle technique of our great Zen temple. It's on par with the strongest martial Tao battle technique, the Tathagata seal. It can move mountains and fill seas with boundless might. Marquis, you can't take it head-on. At this moment, Monk Jingren anxiously and nervously shouted at the Marquis of Champion. So there are still remnants of the great Zen temple here. Autarch Qian glanced at Monk Jingren and ignored him. A beginner martial sage like Monk Jingren was not even an ant in front of Autarch Qian. Autarch Qian naturally had no interest in him. Vacuum palm, huh? So what? The Marquis of Champion roared. The skylight horn divine armor emitted a dazzling blood-colored radiance. The warpath divine spear in his hand buzzed and trembled like a roaring dragon. Old fellow, I'll show you what I'm capable of. The Marquis of Champion laughed sinisterly. With a flash of clear light, he disappeared. Avicii killing Tao. In the next instant, a dazzling spear light flashed behind Autarch Qian. The Marquis of Champion's figure shot out from behind Autarch Qian. He brandished his spear and ruthlessly stabbed at Autarch Qian. Ha! You've walked right into my trap. Autarch Qian did not seem surprised at the Marquis of Champion's sudden appearance. He still had a faint smile on his face. Vacuum palm capture. A huge palm suddenly appeared beside the Marquis of Champion. Its 5 fingers closed and directly grabbed the Marquis of Champion, who had just appeared. Even with the Marquis of Champion's human immortal martial Tao strength, there was no room for him to struggle. The Marquis of Champion had always liked to use this move, grabbing, imprisoning, and then swallowing the Taotai in one mouthful. At this moment, it was as if he had suffered retribution. The Marquis of Champion was caught in the same move and imprisoned in the same hand. You're saying that I've come to kill you because I can't control you anymore? Actually, you're wrong. Autarch Qian looked at the Marquis of Champion with a smile. His eyes burned with passion, as if he had seen a rare treasure and could not bear to part with it. Human immortal body. You're not even 18 years old, but you've already cultivated the human immortal body. What kind of rare talent is this? What kind of rare opportunity is this? Autarch Qian's face was fervent, his eyes shining. How many spirit medicines have I taken? How much effort have I put into it? My body's martial Tao cultivation is still only at the martial saint realm, unable to break through to the human immortal realm. It's a good thing that the heavens have treated me well and sent you, an 18-year-old human immortal, to me. As long as I possess your body, I can possess the human immortal body of martial Tao. Only with the human immortal martial Tao and the 9 tribulations of the divine soul will I have the possibility of ascending to the yang spirit realm. This body is my son to begin with. As for you, you're just a reincarnated soul. Your flesh and blood came from your parents, so this body is naturally mine. Now, it's time to return this body to me. Autarch Qian laughed loudly as his body collapsed, turning into a ray of light that charged into the Marquis of Champion's mind. In the Heart Lake's sea of consciousness, Autarch Qian's figure appeared, but before he could do anything, he saw the Marquis of Champion laughing loudly at him. Ha 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 ha. The Marquis of Champion pointed at Autarch Qian and laughed until he was out of breath, as if he had seen the most ridiculous thing in the world. You're about to die, what's so funny about that? Autarch Qian frowned slightly, his heart faintly feeling uneasy, as if something had gone beyond his calculations. I've seen people send themselves to their deaths, but I've never seen one send themselves to their deaths so thoroughly. The Marquis of Champion stopped laughing and said to Autarch Qian with a cold smile, "Since you know that I've obtained Emperor Yu's supreme treasure, don't tell me you didn't take any precautions at all?" Emperor Yu's supreme treasure? Autarch Qian was originally worried, but now he was completely at ease, his face relaxed. The future master of the great thousand worlds. Previously, when I saw you devouring those 2 demon gods, I had already calculated it. Emperor Yu's supreme treasure can only devour things that are sealed. It has no effect on me. You're right. The Marquis of Champion nodded seriously before revealing a mocking smile. Under normal circumstances, it would naturally be like that. But you're currently in Tao Tai's mouth. Autarch Qian was shocked as his face changed greatly. Roar! A heaven-shaking roar sounded out, causing Autarch Qian to feel his vision darken. Ha 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 ha! The Marquis of Champion laughed loudly. Chapter 236. Ha 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 ha! After swallowing Autarch Qian's future incarnation, the Marquis Champion laughed heartily. Just as he opened his eyes, he suddenly realized that a copper rod was coming at him with a whistling wind. Severe warning! Monk Jingren looked ferocious, as though he was possessed by a furious wisdom king. His blood boiled as he leaped into the air and swung his copper rod at the Marquis Champion. The so-called severe warning of Buddhism was to raise a rod and smash it at the opponent's head. If this rod landed, even the Marquis Champion's human immortal body would be smashed to pieces. Monk, what are you up to? The Marquis Champion hurriedly raised his spear and blocked Monk Jingren's ferocious attack. Huh? Master? Master Marquis? Monk Jingren paused and looked at the Marquis Champion hesitantly. Master Marquis? It's really you? You haven't been possessed by that old bastard Yang Pan? This Marquis is such a wise and powerful person. Do you think it's so easy for others to take over my body? The Marquis of Champion rolled his eyes and pushed away Monk Jingren, who was standing in front of him. Ha ha! Monk Jingren rubbed his head and laughed foolishly. I thought that the old bastard had possessed Master Marquis, so, Monk, be careful! King Condor shouted anxiously. Monk, possession of the soul allows one to regain their original memories. Don't be fooled by him. Ah! Monk Jingren was shocked and raised the copper rod in his hand. Lie to your grandmother! The Marquis Champion roared angrily and scolded King Condor. You bastard, your Master Marquis is here perfectly fine. That old bastard Yang Pan, do you think he can possess me? Are you blind? Monk Jingren and King Condor believed that the Marquis Champion was the real person. If Autarch Qian had really possessed him, he wouldn't have scolded that old bastard Yang Pan. Even if he wanted to pretend, he wouldn't have to do it in front of 2 people he could easily crush. Master Marquis, please forgive me. Please forgive me. The Divine Eagle King ran over eagerly, dragging 2 half-dead figures in his hands. Nalan Shinyu? Black Wolf King? The Marquis of Champion cast a glance at the two figures that the Condor King was dragging, and the corners of his mouth curled up into a smile. These two fellows exhausted all their strength to summon Mahakala and Destruction Heaven. In the end, they actually allowed me to take advantage of them. The war had already ended, but the impact of this war on this world was very far-reaching. Within the Western Cloud Empire, wherever the statues of Mahakala and Destruction were set up, the statues of Mahakala and Destruction collapsed under the horrified gazes of the believers. Mahakala and Havoc Heaven have fallen? The death of the two gods left the people of Yunmeng at a loss. Mahakala and Havoc Heaven have fallen? In the imperial palace of the Western Cloud Empire, Nalen E. Hong suddenly stood up after hearing the news. His eyes shone brightly as he turned his head to look in the direction of the profound Heaven Holy Land. The corners of his mouth curled into a sneer. The mysterious Sky Mansion Master and his wife are already dead. The Peacock King is also dead. Now that two of the four gods have fallen, the profound Heaven Holy Land can already make a move. Within the Western Cloud Empire, the ruler of the profound Heaven Holy Land was the royal family, but not the emperor. As the ruler of the Western Cloud Empire, he had always been suppressed by the profound Heaven Holy Land. This made Nalen E. Hong very unhappy. Now that such a good opportunity had appeared, Nalen E. Hong naturally wanted to control the profound Heaven Holy Land in his own hands. Unlike the ruler of the Western Cloud Empire, who was pleasantly surprised, the Qian Emperor was furious. Unfilial son! Unfilial son! Unfilial son! Smashing the table in front of him with a slap, the veins on the Qian Emperor's forehead bulged. This unfilial son has actually grown to this extent? Human immortal of the martial Tao, ghost immortal of the divine soul, and Emperor Yu's supreme treasure. Even my future master's incarnation was swallowed by him. This is outrageous. Taking a deep breath, the Qian Emperor suppressed the anger in his heart and slowly regained his composure. Men, send an order to the Hanlin Academy. They have 1 month to decipher the heavenly book of Emperor Yu. Otherwise, they will be expelled from the Hanlin Academy for being ignorant and incompetent. In the hands of the champion Marquis, Emperor Yu's supreme treasure displayed great power. The Qian Emperor began to attach more importance to the heavenly book of Emperor Yu. Unfilial son, you think I can't do anything to you? If not for the Dream God base, I could crush you with a wave of my hand. The Qian Emperor snorted. Unfilial son, don't even think about living in peace now that you've obtained Emperor Yu's supreme treasure. I will spread this news to the world. At that time, you will become the target of public criticism. The Qian Emperor hated the champion Marquis to the bone, but Li Yu was very fond of him. Not bad, child of wealth. Li Yu nodded with satisfaction after seeing the new items in the treasury. The first thing he took care of was the painting of the Origin Essence Temple. The Origin Essence Temple has a cultivation method called the Origin Essence Scripture. This method emphasizes the complementarity of the soul and body, combining essence blood and energy into one. It can use the body's essence blood to supplement the soul and the soul to nourish the body. Although this was only an application of the complementarity of the soul and body, Li Yu could analyze more information about the fusion of the soul and body. System: extract the memories of the painting and record the Origin Essence Scripture into the treasury. Apart from the Origin Essence Scripture, the other things in the painting were of no use. Li Yu threw it aside and continued to deal with the remaining items. Mahakala and Destruction Sky? These two gods are evil gods and demonic gods. Apart from the power of the soul, they are completely worthless. Li Yu looked at the two gods and shook his head slightly. Even the cold moon goddess that he had taken in last time was still rotting in the treasury. Mahakala and Destruction Sky were even more worthless. System: decompose the two demonic gods into pure soul power and store them in the treasury. After dealing with the two demonic gods, Liu looked at the Qian Emperor's future master clone. This is a good thing. Liu chuckled and nodded. System: extract the future master's memories. The Qian Emperor cultivated the Sutra of Death from the future and cultivated such a future master clone. For many years, he had been using the future master's calculation ability to deal with everything. The future master's memories contained countless information. This was very useful to Liu. You've collected so many techniques? Apart from the Sutra of Death, the Righteous Sect, the Creation Sect, the Incense Sect, the Peach God Sect, the Great Zen Sect, the Xiantian Sect, and the Most Supreme Sect. You've collected so many techniques from these sects? Looking at the future master's memories that the system had extracted, Liu was secretly speechless. All these years, the Qian Emperor had collected countless books openly and secretly, using the future master's calculation ability to deduce the path of the sun god. Just like Liu, he had collected the techniques of various sects and clans to refine his own great path. Fortunately, after working hard for most of his life, in the end, it's all mine. Liu smiled and nodded. System: enter the information extracted from the future master's memories into the treasury. After the information was processed, all that was left was the future master himself. I don't need the future master for now. Once my sovereign great path is perfected, I'll be able to absorb all the soul power and break through in one go. Everything that needed to be dealt with had been dealt with. Liu directly got the system to pay the champion marquis according to the ratio and no longer paid attention to it. Chapter 237. A day later, the champion marquis' report spread across the world. I, Great Gon's Qing Province Governor, Qing Province Army Commander, Champion Marquis Yang'an, bow my head and report. Since the spring moon, I have been in charge of the South Ocean Navy to suppress the Cloud Mist pirates. We fought the Cloud Mist pirates in the desolate ocean domain, relying on the Emperor's virtue. The soldiers risked their lives. 10 charges 10 arbiters had captured 300 ships below the Cloud Mist and captured the Yuanmeng commander, Bai Shihua. Since then, the 4 seas have calmed down. Those who offend my great Gon will be killed no matter how far away they are. Good. Great job, Champion Marquis. A good man should be like that. Those who offend my great Gon will be killed no matter how far away they are. All over Great Gon, numerous scholars recited the Champion Marquis' report, winning the cheers of everyone. All of a sudden, the Champion Marquis' name was as bright as the sun. Such a shocking achievement made the entire Great Qian dynasty excited. From the officials to the state capitals, they all congratulated him. All of a sudden, the number of praises was like snow. Kacha. The Heaven Emperor crushed the teacup in his hand. He was furious but could only pretend to be happy, smiling as he accepted the congratulations of the officials. The depression in his heart was indescribable. He pinched his nose and wrote a decree to praise the Champion Marquis, giving out all sorts of rewards before finally suppressing this matter. Following which, the Heaven Emperor also used his method. A few days later, a piece of news that shocked all the cultivators in the world spread out. The Champion Marquis had obtained Emperor Yu's treasure. It was because of this treasure that the Champion Marquis was able to achieve such a shocking achievement and become invincible. Emperor Yu's treasure had the ability to change one's fate. No matter how bad one's talent was, it could allow one to improve by leaps and bounds. Even if one met a bottleneck, it could allow one to break through quickly. After obtaining Emperor Yu's treasure, one would become invincible. The moment this news spread out, the world was in an uproar. Countless people started to get restless. Marquis, when Monk Jingren and King Shen Ying heard this news, they instantly became anxious. If this news spread out, the Champion Marquis would become the enemy of the world. That old bastard Yang Pan's move was truly vicious. What are you afraid of? The Marquis of Champion smiled and looked up at the sky. It's already June. Xia Lei was already here. As long as this Marquis survives the lightning tribulation, even if the entire world is my enemy, what is there to fear? The Marquis is mighty. The divine Eagle King flattered him appropriately. Ha 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 ha. The Marquis Champion laughed as he walked out of the hall. Boom. Dark clouds rolled in the sky as a thunderclap resounded through the world. Ha 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 ha. The Marquis of Champion laughed aloud. His soul left his body, turning into a gust of wind that whistled into the sky and plunged into the rolling thunderclouds. The Champion Marquis is about to undergo tribulation? Li Yu was telling stories to Shouting Ting and the little foxes when he suddenly heard the system prompt, which attracted Li Yu's attention. When the Marquis of Champion transcended the tribulation for the first time, he only let Taotai record the data. I'll be able to take a look at this tribulation. Li Yu casually ended the story and poisoned Snow White to death. Then, under the furious roars of Little Ting Ting and Little Fox, he hurriedly ran away. Boom. At this moment, the Marquis of Champion had already charged into the thunderclouds. There were 9 stages to the thunder tribulation. Within the tribulation clouds, there were 9 layers of thunder seas that looked like ripples. The outermost layer was the first thunder sea. This thunder sea was used to temper the soul. From yin to yang, the endless thunderbolts cleansed the soul as though it was being sliced into pieces. The Marquis of Champion had already passed through this thunder tribulation and easily passed through the first thunder sea to reach the second thunder sea. The moment he entered the second thunder sea, the scenery of the world changed as though he had barged into an unknown world. Boom! Thunder roared and crackled. Amidst the flashes of lightning, countless sparkling streams of light burst out like countless dense, sparkling stars. These sparkling stars were like thorns, vaguely revealing a ferocious color as they emitted a murderous aura like an army of thousands. Kill! These sparkling stars were like a battle formation as they charged towards the soul of the Marquis of Champion wildly. These are all thoughts? After hundreds of millions of years, after the deaths of the world, the remnant thoughts are actually accumulated in the thunder clouds? Li Yu saw this scene through the system connection and was slightly surprised. When he thought about how this world did not have a place like the 6 paths of reincarnation, he understood. The obsessions of all living beings could not be converted into reincarnation. Naturally, there would be remnants gathered. The corrosion of endless remnant thoughts is indeed a huge test. After being cleansed by the remnant thoughts, one's true nature will be revealed and the thoughts will be divided. I see. Li Yu quickly understood the principle of the second thunder tribulation. I wonder how the Marquis of Champion will deal with it. Holy sh*t, this works too? The Marquis of Champion directly manifested the image of Tao Tai. Facing the endless waves of remnant thoughts, he opened his huge mouth and swallowed them endlessly. Ha 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 ha. Mere remnant thoughts, mere thunder tribulation, what are they worth? This Marquis is invincible. The Marquis of Champion laughed maniacally as his soul turned into a breeze and landed on the huge image of Tao Tai. With the image of Tao Tai, he ran amok in the second thunder tribulation, swallowing everything wherever he went. He was like a huge whale that was crazily devouring small fishes and shrimp. These remnant thoughts actually contain the power of lightning? When Li Yu saw the remnant thoughts handed over by Tao Tai, he actually discovered a strong and ferocious power of lightning. That's right. Since they have been accumulating in the thunder clouds for billions of years, these remnant thoughts have probably already merged with the thunder cloud. It is normal for them to contain the power of lightning. It's just that, if this is the case, wouldn't the Marquis of Champion's thunder tribulation be too simple? Just as Li Yu expected, Tao Tai swallowed the remnant thoughts and returned 20% to the Marquis of Champion. The power of lightning within the remnant thoughts flowed into the soul. The soul of the Marquis of Champion exploded with brilliant light and instantly split into countless thoughts. 2,400, 3,600, 4,800, 7,200. 7,200 thoughts shone brilliantly, each about the size of an egg. They shone brightly like luminous pearls. Ha 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 ha. The second thunder tribulation has already passed. The Marquis of Champion laughed loudly as he charged into the third thunder tribulation. The manifestation of the third thunder tribulation was the greatest enemy in the heart of the Marquis of Champion, Emperor Qian. Thunder tribulation tempered the heart, using the power of lightning to destroy the enemy in the heart. Although this thunder tribulation was virtual, it was actually a manifestation of the Marquis of Champion's understanding. Therefore, Emperor Qian was incomparably powerful and had beaten the Marquis of Champion half to death. Fortunately, it was just a virtual manifestation and did not have any intelligence. The Marquis of Champion used the same trick and lured Emperor Qian into Tao Tai's huge mouth. Then, it was just a matter of closing his mouth. After swallowing the power of lightning, the Marquis of Champion's soul expanded and he was revived on the spot. Then he charged into the fourth thunder tribulation with confidence. Fourth thunder tribulation, one thought, one world. Every thought of the Marquis of Champion fell into a small world. Then, this small world was collapsing. Being able to use the power of the void, the Marquis of Champion dealt with it very easily. His divine soul came out in an instant. Then, he drove Tao Tai and swallowed these small worlds one by one. The power of the void flowed into his soul. Every thought absorbed the power of the void. One thought, one world. Every thought could open up a small space. At this point, the Marquis of Champion instantly passed the fourth thunder tribulation. Such speed was extremely shocking. Chapter 238. System: Connect to Tao Tai and scan the tribulation clouds. Liu took advantage of the Marquis Champion's tribulation to scan the lightning tribulation and let the system analyze it to see if he could gain anything. The power of the lightning tribulation could be said to be the most obvious power of the laws of heaven and earth in this world. Analyzing the laws of heaven and earth would be of great help to Liu's cultivation. Could it be that the Marquis Champion is still thinking of undergoing the tribulation? At this moment, Liu realized that the Marquis Champion was still thinking of charging into the fifth tribulation. Boom! A power that could shatter worlds appeared before his eyes. The endless void was destroyed before his eyes. The power that could destroy everything made the Marquis Champion shiver as a chill seeped out from his soul. The Marquis Champion hurriedly stopped at the edge of the fifth tribulation. I am unable to undergo the fifth tribulation for the time being. But it won't be for long. The Marquis Champion turned and charged out of the tribulation clouds. His soul was like the wind as it instantly returned to his body. Fourth tribulation, one thought, one world. His soul already possessed the power of the void. At this moment, the entire greater world and the endless void were no longer mysterious in the eyes of the Marquis Champion. The space before his eyes was no longer an unfathomable and formless object. In the eyes of the Marquis Champion, space was like layers of curtains stacked together to form a whole. But there were still gaps in between each layer of curtains. So, traversing through the void is through these gaps? The Marquis Champion let out a long breath as he felt refreshed. His entire body was filled with boundless power. Human immortal of the martial Tao, fourth tribulation of the soul. With my current strength, although I am not invincible, I am not afraid of anyone. The Marquis Champion laughed heartily. Congratulations to the Marquis for successfully undergoing the tribulation. Monk Jingren clasped his fists and congratulated. Marquis, how many lightning tribulations did you undergo this time? The Condor King looked at the Marquis Champion anxiously. Tribulation. He had wasted so many years and had yet to undergo a single lightning tribulation. But this marquis in front of him did it in the blink of an eye. 4 lightning tribulations. The Marquis Champion chuckled. I should be able to undergo the 5th tribulation soon. Now that Autarch Qian had spread the news of Marquis Champion obtaining Emperor Yu's supreme treasure, there would definitely be people knocking on his door very soon. So what if he transcended the tribulation? 4 lightning tribulations? One thought, one world? The divine Eagle King was aghast as he stared at the Marquis Champion with his mouth agape. Transcending 3 tribulations at once. It was almost impossible to find such a person in the world today. Even the Dream God base doesn't have that ability. Ha 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 ha. This Marquis is blessed by the heavens, blessed by destiny. So what if I have this achievement? The Marquis Champion laughed heartily, looking pleased with himself. After continuously devouring 2 godly spirits and Autarch Qian's incarnation, the Marquis Champion's strength instantly rose by 3 levels. The Marquis Champion was even more satisfied with the Taotai Jade Pendant. There are plenty of experts in this world. What if I devoured Yang Pan's true body, Hong Xuanji, the vital energy of the Origin Essence God Temple, and even the Dream God base? To what extent can my strength increase? The Marquis of Champion's eyes glowed as a strong desire to plunder and possess filled his mind. If I continue to devour, I will definitely become invincible. The matter at the Heaven End Mountain had been concluded. The Marquis Champion left the cleanup work to Monk Jing Ren and the Divine Eagle King, while he returned to the South Sea Navy camp. The Autarch Qian's imperial edict had been issued, ordering the Marquis Champion to return to the capital. In truth, the Marquis Champion did not bring any troops with him other than a group of personal guards. After boarding the carriage, the Marquis Champion's carriage set off amidst the cheers of the Navy soldiers. This journey will definitely not be peaceful. The Marquis Champion naturally knew why the Autarch Qian was in such a hurry to send him back. Staying in the Navy camp, even if someone wanted to steal the treasure, they would not dare to rashly attack the camp. After all, the hundreds of thousands of Navy soldiers were no joke. Now that the Marquis Champion had left the camp with a group of personal guards, those who wanted to steal the treasure had been waiting for a long time. Hong Yi, I heard that the Marquis Champion obtained Emperor Yu's supreme treasure. Should we go and steal it? In the Tranquil Sea camp, Chan Insha had the idea of killing someone to steal the treasure. Insha, we also obtained Emperor Yu's supreme treasure. The past and present scriptures, aren't they the supreme treasures bestowed by Emperor Yu? Hong Yi chuckles and pulls Chan Insha to his side. When Emperor Yu attained the Tao, he once said that he would leave the supreme treasure to the fated person. Since the Marquis Champion obtained the supreme treasure, then he is the fated person. He has his own fate, we have our own fate. Why should we force it? Didn't you say that a gentleman will constantly strive to improve himself? You actually said that there is no need to force it? Chan Insha rolls her eyes at Hong Yi. Alright. Let's speak the truth. The Marquis Champion, we can't beat him. Martial Dao human immortal. The 2 of us are ghost immortals who have not even passed the lightning tribulation. If we run over, we will be killed by a cough from him. Alright. Chan Insha has a deflated look. Put your thoughts on cultivation. Being strong yourself is the foundation. Otherwise, even if you have the supreme treasure, you will not be able to protect it. Hong Yi persuades and then starts to discuss cultivation comprehension with Chan Insha. At this moment, the Marquis Champion's carriage had already been attacked. Marquis Champion, you have killed countless soldiers of the Western Cloud Empire. Today, we have specially come to seek revenge. An angry roar comes from the front. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. One after another, huge crossbow bolts pierced through the air and flew over. A group of figures armed with sabers and spears follow closely behind, roaring angrily as they charge towards the carriage. The people of the Western Cloud Empire are actually speaking the official language of the Great Qian Empire. If you want to find an excuse, you should find a better one. The Marquis Champion sighs speechlessly. Sitting on the carriage, he gently waves his hand. A strong gust of wind whizzes, sweeping the incoming crossbow bolts away. Puff, puff, puff. The crossbow bolts that were sent flying away knocked down the charging figures. A motley crew. The Marquis Champion waves his hand disdainfully. Take them down! Rumble. His personal cavalry charge out. Long spears, large halberds, fast horses and strong bows, these personal guards who have followed the Marquis Champion all the way here are all full of vitality and extraordinary skills. In a short moment, this motley crew was completely wiped out. Such people dare to come and snatch my treasure? It's really baffling. The Marquis Champion curls his lips in disdain. If they can't do it, then what about me? The sky shook fiercely, and a mighty aura covered the sky and covered the earth. Imperial dominance. Fist of destruction. There is a loud roar in the sky, and a huge fist smashes down. When this fist is thrown out, the space in the direction of the fist seems to have caved in, and a huge gust of wind comes crashing down like a huge mountain. Fist of destruction? Remnants of the previous dynasty? The Marquis Champion raises his head slightly, and a cold smile appears at the corner of his mouth. Chapter 239. A young man in his 20s was floating in the air. This person was dressed in a yellow robe with a beautiful dragon embroidered on it. He had a noble aura, like the crown prince of a country. In fact, he was indeed the crown prince of the previous dynasty. Crown Prince Zhou? A stray dog like you dares to have designs on me? You're courting death. The Marquis Champion roared, and the divine spear of death appeared in his hand. He straightened his body and stood up from the carriage. As he stood up, the blood and qi around the Marquis Champion surged. The mighty blood and qi was like a straight smoke signal that shot into the sky. Under the vibration of the aura, the Marquis Champion seemed to be indomitable. Blood-dripping sky. The long spear in his hand shook and whistled as it broke through the air. Endless blood and iron-killing intent exploded on the spear blade. The entire spear blade bloomed with a blood-red light. Boom! The blood-draining spear met the huge fist that was coming down on his head. The majestic vital energy and blood, as well as the violent martial will, shattered this huge fist. Puff! The spear light was like lightning breaking through the air. Crown Prince Zhou, who had only undergone 2 lightning tribulations, was pierced through by the Marquis Champion's spear before he could react. You dare to kill others and steal their treasures with such little cultivation? You're overestimating yourself. The pitch-black Taotai rose into the air and swallowed Crown Prince Zhou, who was on the spear. Stop. Yang-en, you're courting death. There was a loud rumble in the sky. A black cloud with a radius of 100 miles broke through the air. Monstrous killing intent, endless brutality, ferocity, and a hell-like aura spread out and shook the world. Amidst the dark clouds, which resembled the demonic realm of the 9 underworlds, stood a huge throne. This throne was no different from the dragon throne in the Great Qian Imperial Palace. It was golden and dazzling, with 9 dragons coiling around it. There was also a huge dragon head on each side of the armrest. This is the great ancestor of the Zhou dynasty? The Avicii throne? The Marquis Champion frowned slightly, and the blood-red vertical eye between his brows suddenly opened. Endless blood-red light flowed, and a horny armor covered with ferocious spikes appeared on his body. Legend has it that the founding ancestor of the Zhou dynasty massacred the world. Mountains of corpses, seas of blood, and piles of bones were used to gather the murderous aura of the world and smelt the strange metal from beyond the heavens to create the Avicii throne. Is this the one? In the blink of an eye, the huge black cloud was right in front of them. On the enormous Avicii throne sat an unparalleled tyrant who was wearing a dragon robe and a flat crown. Bloody aura was surging out of his body. Dark clouds rolled around the throne. Various strange phenomena appeared in the churning black clouds. From time to time, they would condense into armored guards holding swords. From time to time, they would transform into scenes of two armies fighting each other. From time to time, they would transform into mountains of corpses and seas of blood. Within the thick black clouds within a radius of 50 kilometers, there were millions of war spirits fighting endlessly. The sky was filled with mountains of corpses and seas of blood. Layers upon layers, layers upon layers, patches upon patches, it was endless. The entire sky turned into a scene of azura purgatory, a scene of endless slaughter. When this phenomenon appeared, the Marquis champion was shocked, and his expression became serious. Extreme king domination. Fist of destruction. When the same move was used by Zhou Taizu, it was a world of difference compared to Crown Prince Zhou. Boom! With this punch, there was an earth-shattering explosion in the void. Heaven and earth shook. Heaven and earth were really shaking. Under this punch, the entire space was trembling. The void shattered and the wind and clouds surged. The Marquis champion only felt the top of his head darken. The incomparably huge fist covered the sky and smashed down as if the heavens and earth were collapsing. This strength is actually not much weaker than that old thief Yang Pan. The Marquis champion took a deep breath, and a monstrous blood aura erupted violently. Thunderous explosions came from the acupoints all over his body, and endless blood aura ran through his body. In his divine soul, the war god demon statue appeared once again. The will of conquest, plunder, and possession ran through his body and divine soul. Darkness is my armor, and the bloody aura is my spear. My path is to conquer, plunder, and possess. At this moment, the Marquis champion used his strongest strength, and his divine soul and body merged into one. The divine soul cultivation of 4 lightning tribulations and the physical strength of a human immortal of the martial Tao merged into one, and an unparalleled power erupted. Avicii. Hell. The spear in his hand soared into the sky like a blood-colored dragon, and blood aura filled the sky. Conquest. Plunder. Possession. With this spear, the Marquis champion had already surpassed the mold of the war god, Shang. From the Avicii killing path to the Avicii hell, it had truly become his own martial will. In this spear, the Marquis champion actually brought out the aura of fist will materialization. Beginner human immortal, intermediate human immortal, and advanced human immortal. These 3 stages were all the enlightenment stages. When all the acupoints in the body were fully opened, chi would flow through the body, and the martial will would condense. Only then would there be the possibility of advancing to fist will materialization. The Marquis champion's realm was still far away. However, Li Yu's soul-body fusion experiment allowed the Marquis champion to erupt with a trace of fist will materialization in advance. Boom! A huge fist descended from the sky and collided with the blood-colored dragon-like spear energy, and an earth-shattering sound erupted. The surging wind tore the surrounding void, and the destructive power that seemed to destroy the void exploded. Within a radius of 1 mile, all living things on the ground were ground into dust. The Marquis champion's carriage, troops, and horses were all turned into flying ashes, not even dregs were left. On the Avicii throne, the great ancestor of the state of Zhou let out a heart-wrenching scream. The spear blasted out, and the blood-colored dragon fiercely blasted into the black clouds that filled the sky. The violent wind and the monstrous blood aura violently exploded, and a huge hole was blasted open in the black clouds that covered half the sky. The blood aura of the human immortal of the martial Tao exploded like sulfuric acid, melting gold and iron. The great ancestor of the state of Zhou was blasted by this explosion of blood aura, and more than 36,000 thoughts were instantly destroyed. 1/3 of his divine soul was destroyed, and the intense pain caused the great ancestor of the state of Zhou to let out a shrill scream. "I'll take your life while you're sick." How could the Marquis champion be courteous with him? His figure flashed, and a clear light burst out. In a flash, the Marquis champion rushed to the side of the great ancestor of the state of Zhou. Human immortal of the martial Tao, blood aura was Yang. The Marquis champion stretched out his hands, and firmly held onto the great ancestor of the state of Zhou, and heavily pressed him onto the golden throne. Ao, the image of a huge Taotai appeared, and like a black hole, it opened its huge mouth and swallowed in one gulp. The great ancestor of the state of Zhou, who was once a supreme being of 6 lightning tribulations, who once dominated the world, was swallowed in one gulp. Even the great ancestor of the state of Zhou was destroyed, so how could the Avicii throne be let go? The Taoya's huge mouth appeared once again, and like a dragon sucking in water, an endless suction force was produced. Together with the throne and the black clouds, they were all sucked into the Taoya's stomach. Who else? Who else wants to seize this Marquis treasure? Who else? The Marquis champion stood in the air, looking down on the world, and looking down on all directions. Monstrous ferocious power, peerlessly domineering, made everyone who was watching this battle feel depressed. The surroundings were silent, and no one dared to answer. Outside of the number 1 person in the world, the dream god base of the state of Zhou with 7 lightning tribulations, 6 lightning tribulations were already peerless overlords. A 6th tribulation overlord like the great ancestor of the state of Zhou died in the hands of the Marquis champion, and so cleanly that not even a speck of dust was left. This battle shook the world. This battle established the Marquis champion's peerless reputation of dominating the world. With the Marquis champion being so tyrannical, anyone who wanted to take the Emperor of Yu's treasure would have to carefully consider their own weight. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.